Hello, you beautiful people, and welcome to the IronGeek Podcast, featuring Autumn, Live Beef, Barry, maybe AP later, and possibly Mac if he shows up. And I've invited a few other people who may or may not show. This week, we've got a lot of stuff. We're actually starting about 15 minutes early so that we can, I don't really know why I'm doing that, just because I feel like it really. So we're going to be talking about technology, politics, maybe some John McAfee, depending on who wants to talk about what. I am hearing a little bit of an echo, but I'll try and talk softer. Excellent. So everybody, how's your week? What's going on? You melting like we are here?
The heat wave seems to be over. It's the general mid 90s here now, and some rain and humid. And I think we had a couple of 100-degree days. I mean,
100 degrees is nothing to laugh at. It was 116 here, I think, yesterday, and like 108 the day before. And of course, they got to bring all the reporters out and drag them over to the fountain so that they can show people playing in the fountain. It's like, it's 100 degrees here. We have cooling centers open, and here are people playing in the fountain. And it's like, all right, we get it. They're paying you to get some stock footage, but you don't have to be so enthusiastic about the fountain. It's a fountain. I mean, come on. Anyway, so yeah, John McAfee died. That happened a while back. We didn't cast last week for unknown reasons. And so this week, we're going to probably cover that a little bit. You guys think that he died of natural causes, that he took his own life in a cell? You got some people don't. Some people do. It's kind of a contentious issue. Some people believe this conspiracy theory that he had a dead man switch and that it's been activated, but I don't think I've seen anything in the media yet that has been shocking or newly released due to his death. That was like as a result of this so-called dead man switch. If you are going to get technical with it, there was a tattoo he had on him that said whacked. And if you followed that tattoo on Etherscan, it led to a wallet address that said greater than Epstein, the greater than sign. And then that wallet all of a sudden became active, started sending out cryptocurrency, Ethereum, to a bunch of addresses, and then it went dark again. And then a website popped up briefly that said within 30 days there was going to be a major release of information because of what happened to John McAfee. And then the website went dark again. It was called like BitBlog or something. And some people did some research on that. They think that it was just some scammer who set it up who was trying to capitalize on the whole John McAfee thing, his death. And they had put in a wallet address there, probably hoping that they would get donations. And yeah, it's probably a scam. But it doesn't necessarily mean that there wasn't a dead man switch and that people weren't sent certain information and are now, maybe he had set it up in such a way that, if he were to die, he had an envelope with the same data that he gave to a bunch of people and said, if you ever hear in the news that I died, send this envelope to this media agency or something, right? And did the same thing with like a whole bunch of envelopes, or who knows what he did. I mean, he was a pretty smart guy. He was certainly eccentric. That doesn't mean he was an idiot by far, He was known for doing pretty eccentric stuff. Like when he was in Belize and he killed his neighbor for some reason, he had given the police there computers, so he had access into his own investigation files. I mean, he still fled, but it said that he also did that with local police departments here and secretaries of federal judges. He'd donate computers to them through various agencies that he would set up to do so. Then he'd have backdoors into stuff. I mean, he'd brag about doing it. So it's not so far-fetched that he would have information that, if came to light, like by the general populace, could cause some rich and powerful people to be very uncomfortable. So who knows?
He's also a major troll in the last few years of his life, and Hey,
they freed Bill Cosby too.
Sorry, what was that?
Bill Cosby is free.
Oh yeah, that's different. Well,
The
one drug user at a time.
Well, I
the
mean,
proof is in the pudding.
they couldn't free Britney, so they freed Bill Cosby. Hey,
And I heard a comedian talking about how Bill Cosby used to actually call up other comedians and he would chastise them for using foul language in their routines. And it's kind of ironic that a guy who was so self-righteous to think that he should be able to tell other comedians what language they can use in their acts because it might offend people, that he would then go and do what he was accused of, which was arguably a lot worse. You know, always those people who are self-righteous and telling other people how they should be living their lives that tend to be the most weird, fucked up people.
Well, a lot of them, but Cosby admitted the drugging eventually, so maybe he felt guilt. I doubt it was just whimsical. Oh yeah, hey yeah, I just drugged a lady too in the 70s. No, it's possible he just felt guilt and I'm not saying redeeming him. No, he should be in prison. But if he did feel guilt for what he did, I mean that's one kind of reason why he might still have felt it appropriate to chastise comedians who used foul language as well.
well, Bill Cosby did the chastising for years.
He drugged someone in the 70s many years ago.
Yeah.
So that timeline works out for my theory.
And I mean, like, it's certainly what he was accused. Bill Clinton was not Bill Clinton. Wrong Bill. Sorry, wrong pervert Bill. What Bill Cosby was accused of doing is pretty apprehensible. I mean, drugging women and taking advantage of them is pretty sick bastard thing to do. So. I mean, did he really do it? Probably. I mean, it wasn't just one or two or like 5 women who accused him of this. So, not to say that just because a mob accuses you of something, you're guilty, but it doesn't really look good for him, at least in this case.
So, mob doesn't determine reality, but they determine reality.
You. I'm so glad I have my girlfriend here to call me on all my shit. That's great. I see a kitty behind her too. All right.
Well,
so
the question is, where did he get the drugs to do the roofing?
well, I mean, he was a celebrity with like lots of money, so it probably wouldn't be hard for him to get his hands on any drugs he wanted. Or maybe he downloaded a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook and figured out how to make fucking whatever himself.
What kind of drugs did McAfee take?
McAfee took any kind of drugs he could get his hands on.
That doesn't say anything. So we're going to harass one for who probably just smoked pot. He may have just smoked pot. Maybe he did mushrooms. Maybe
No, McAfee.
Like, you're judging him in his character because he did drugs. That doesn't invalidate what he's doing. Or that he's not actually serious about it.
Sorry, are we on McAfee again, or still on Cosby?
We're talking about Bill Cosby.
Okay. I got mixed up there.
I think everybody did. She's good at that. So drugs are bad, okay? Except maybe pot. Pot can be okay.
Drugs are bad.
Yeah. Hey, Mac, are you able to talk? Or are you, I see activation required, no license found. Man, don't you know how to use, like, Crack Engine or something? Come on, fix that shit.
McAfee blew it because, I've been to Bailey City, and you can walk into a pharmacy and get, any narcotic you wanted. And, I was wearing an FBI Houston hat in front of the Bailey Supreme Court building, and there was a guy coming up and trying to sell me pot, okay, in front of the court. So,
well, I mean, FBI agents got to smoke some pot too.
I mean, they have stressful jobs.
Exactly. They're probably the best customers.
Well, I was wearing a hat to chase away the drug dealer hassle people, you know?
Well, I think one of the problems that they've been having with recruitment for getting talented cybersecurity people in the federal space is that they can't have people who even smoke pot or will admit that they've ever smoked pot because it's federally.
So that's half true. Also, that's what they keep telling themselves publicly in press releases. They like the former director of the FBI saying we can't retain cybersecurity talent because we won't want them to smoke pot. And the other part where I meant that half true is that it's a certain number of years since you smoke pot. You can admit you have to admit to it, but after a certain number of years in the past, you admit to it. You've been clean for X number of years. They can admit you in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mudge gave a talk at SummerCon, I think in 2016 or 17 ish, where that was pretty much the thing is we have this big space that needs to be filled of talented cyber people. We need like analysts and all this at the federal level, and we can't fill these positions because they make people take this questionnaire, and on there it asks if you've ever smoked marijuana, and if anybody is honest on there, they're not getting the job, which means nobody gets the job because pretty much everyone at some point in their life has at least tried it. So, I mean, it's like impossible to recruit for the space.
I guarantee you, it's a certain number of years in the past. It's not have you ever smoked pot for this qualification part. I guarantee you.
No, that's what the talk was back then, but I mean, it was a few years ago. So, I think it was SummerCon. It could have been another con. Anyway, they all kind of blend in to one after a while.
It's possible some agencies. So you have so they contract out background investigations where one thing they could ask is, have you ever smoked drugs? Have you done pot? How many years ago did you smoke pot? And then that investigator, after you finish your investigation, hands that packet of information up to the agency you've applied for. It's possible there are some agencies which say, no, we will not accept someone who smoked pot ever. But other agencies will. Well, I mean, we'll like say, okay, you've been clean for 3 years or 2 years, then we'll accept that as long as you don't smoke pot again while it's a Schedule 1 drug.
Well, here's the thing, okay? If drug users are prohibited from buying firearms, if you get a prescription for medical marijuana, you can get put on the next database list, and you cannot buy from a federally firearms licensee. I mean, if they put you on there, it's a sad thing, but yeah. So definitely, the ATF is not going to hire somebody who's smoked pot at all because they're not going to change that requirement. They want to have
now the ATF wants experts on drugs. How else are you going to get experts if they never sampled it?
Right, unless it's like some chemistry geek who's just obsessed with it. But even then, odds are they might have sampled the product at some point.
Yeah, a lot of science is putting stuff in your mouth.
Right. So, I mean, their wish list is just not realistic. But I mean, to be fair, most tech jobs have extremely unrealistic things that they ask for in their job requirements. That, like, for instance, 10 years experience in a language that just came out 2 years ago, or like all this bullshit. So, odds are, even at the federal level, they have people who lie about their experience to get the job.
Well, that's like everyone. That's like there's just jobs everywhere. You have people who flower up their experience to make it sound as if they're qualified. You have people who are overly experienced who tone things down because they don't know how to market themselves. The resume system there was a few key points is okay, but it's really open for grifters to just take advantage of it. And you're also going to miss some talent. Aside from that,
grifters, Grifters and InfoSec is nothing new.
Yes, but I'm not talking of those. I'm talking about grifters who have no technical experience. Which I guess I know does not necessarily prove you wrong either. As far as talent for federal stuff, it's more than just drugs. It's a pipeline issue. Like you have a pipeline, the culture issue. Like what's the best put this? You can get all the 50-something retired special agents, ex-military people you want fully cleared, and that doesn't mean they know computers worth a damn. But that's who they're going to go for.
Exactly.
That's partially a generational thing, you know. In a few decades' time, that kind of concern will not be much of a concern. But that's not going to help them in the meantime.
I'm one of those 50 plus that have been doing computers since paper tape.
Well, I'm not referring to you. I'm referring to people whose experience of computers has been Microsoft Word.
Yeah. What was the Edlin and of course the what's the really old goofy stuff? VisiCalc and all that other crazy stuff. DBase 2, the really old software. Of course, I worked on Xerox 820s, CPM software, and worked on mainframes. So.
I had a great professor who used to work at Xerox before it went up, belly up.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had an instructor from Xerox, great guy, taught me a lot, especially hardware stuff too.
Oh yeah, he system and teacher, and he also taught. It wasn't. He demanded one of the tasks he had was we're gonna simulate what happens if you leave someone alone in your server room for a minute. You have a task. Your requirement is you need to get this live boot CD, create a new root user, and reboot the system before 1 minute is over. You're going to be timed. So you were effectively told, hey, here's how to hack a system, a Linux system, unencrypted Linux system within 1 minute. And a single second over, you failed the assignment.
That's freaking stupid.
Hey, it was good experience.
Do they give you time to prepare your tools ahead of time? Because you could easily make... All right. Well, if you can prepare your tools ahead of time, and you can, assuming you can get it to boot off that in a minute, right, in the first place, because sometimes you got to screw with the BIOS before you can change the primary.
It was they were lab systems. So all of the systems in the lab had the same image. All of them were able to boot from a CD by default.
Okay. So say you can boot from it, right? Then if you have time to prepare your tools and you're only allowed to use a CD-ROM and not say a thumb drive, I would just create a CD-ROM image. That all it does is write a new user into the file system. I mean, it's not that hard. All you got to do is edit, I think, 1 or 2 files. etc Shadow probably would do it.
I mean, you could do that. You don't even need the etc Shadow. That's etc password. You create a new user account. Just don't put the X there. You log in, and you don't even need a password because you don't have an etc Shadow entry.
Well, I'm going to show my age, but I did one of the first funnies in my early computer labs on an IBM 4341 mainframe. Okay, I finished up all my work early because I'm fast. Back then, it was really fast. So I created a script in this voice language stuff that would append a data onto a file over and over again until it ate up all the disk space, and then it would delete when it aired out.
That's clever. I like it.
And I did it about 4 times before and I jumped terminals and do it. And so finally the guy figured out it was me because I was the smartest guy in the room doing this stuff. And it was funny. I mean, he just glared at me. He said, "Stop doing it." But yeah, I shut everybody down. I mean, the whole room would just, computer's down.
Yeah.
But that, that was like, when I barely knew anything. But I figured out how to script in voice language or whatever the.
I remember using, I think it was Visual Basic script to make a fake login screen back in the day when I was in like high school to the teachers' computers, and it was some weird system they had built using like I think WordPerfect on a network.
Yeah.
And before I had like everybody's password in like a week. All I did was edit the autoexec.bat file to run mine thing first, and then it would drop them to the real login. And it looked like pretty much identical to it. It was just username, password. It was like a pre-DOS thing. I think it was NetWare, or I don't even know what the hell they were using. It was a long time ago.
God, that was on my early assignments too. Forgot about that.
I remember cheating in my freaking class where they were teaching typing because I didn't feel like sitting there and typing something that had already been typed. So I would go up the network driver. We were supposed to save our work, which was on it. They didn't have like it was like a token ring network. This was old, and like I literally was like going up a directory from where I was supposed to save stuff and finding the teacher's folder, and then finding other homework that had been submitted already, and then taking somebody else's homework, pulling it up, changing the name, and then submitting it as mine. It's like, oh, I'm a hacker.
Elite hacker.
Lead hacker. But
They should have give you 100 points just for being clever.
I mean, that kind of that. No, I want to make an analogy, but it's not going to fit.
Bad habits die hard because, like, when I went back to college in like 2015 to finish up my bachelor's in computer science, and I just did an nmap of my local machine and saw this odd port open and found out it was net support, and that the tech console that you could download for free onto a computer would allow me to access any other computer in the school. So all I needed to do was be on the same LAN segment as them, and I had access to every other computer. And it was not exactly immediately apparent to the people. Their screen would blink for a second if you actually tried to like physically take it over. But if you just like maybe mounted it remotely through their software, you could pull down any files somebody might have attached via a thumb drive, So you can use your imagination where that could lead to a student and, a teacher in the same classroom and the teacher bringing in the work on that thumb drive. Yeah.
Most I was able to do back in, grade school was just enumerate every user in Active Directory.
Sharphound is pretty freaking cool. You ever play with it? You can actually take the data it generates and put it in Bloodhound and then find the quickest route to DA. The quickest route for me usually being just running responder, but I mean, if you don't want to run responder, you can figure out like, there's this service that's configured. It's got really, really high level administrative access. It's got a freaking domain admin account attached to it. Let's just take over that service, and now I have domain access. It's leveraging SPNs, Kerber roasting, fun. But like, you figure out the path to doing that by using the Sharphound data that you pull down, and you can run Sharphound as any domain user. You can even run it as not a user, like just as a workstation computer that's on the same network, and it can still enumerate some of the Active Directory stuff. It's a cool program.
Yeah. Well, so you did VB. I actually have I took 3 semesters of enterprise level Visual Basic.
Enterprise level.
I'm an MCSD. Okay.
I was an MCSA.
I got that too, and I am also an MCDBA.
Yeah, well, I was an MOUS. MSCKEY MOUS. No. It's not how it's spelled.
And so I've been certified by Microsoft since
I'm certifiable according to Microsoft.
1993, I took a test in MS-DOS and hardware. That was the first. That was a beta test, and I was like one of the first people in Houston to take the test. It was crazy, and I'd already been in a NetWare C&E, so yeah, I've been.
I got CCNA at one point.
Yeah,
Bravo.
Yeah, man. Well, they made us get it as part of the. I was in the track when I first went to college, and they made us take it as part of like passing the class. So.
At least it's not the fucking CEH.
Oh, that reminds me. I gotta renew my fucking EC Council membership for $80 again.
I refused at the CEH. I absolutely refused. The company,
It gets you past the door with a lot of recruiters.
I am aware, but so do other certs. And the CEH is one of the most scummily run certs I have ever encountered in my life. I have never seen any company push half as hard to just say, pay me. I will not let you take this test unless you pay us $800 for training material. Pay me now, pay me.
I
And
do
along
agree.
with several
It's scummy.
decoy certs.
The thing is that they were around first before everybody else. So they're like, if you're in the industry, you know CEH is kind of a joke. But if you're not in the industry and you are Googling around, you're like, what cert do I need if I want to hire a hacker who won't destroy my company?
I would prefer to take the CISSP than I would to take the CEH. I hate them both, but one of them, ISC squared, and I know it's doing its own share of scummy stuff with the CISSP, but it doesn't feel. I don't feel as nauseating as with them as I do with the fucking
the CISSP is a much harder test than the CEH, and they require a lot more experience first in the industry before you can take it.
Yeah.
Yep, I am a CISSP. And
well, I guess it's easy then.
No. No, I took a 6-hour test in 4.5 hours, and I passed it the first time. And the only reason I passed it because I had enough common sense and a lot of experience, because it was a grinder, and you had to, the language and wording of the stupid test, and it was on a Scantron. I had to use reading glasses and a pencil to fill out those stupid little, ovals and junk. Right. So yeah, it was, but I passed it, and I still need to get a bunch of CPEs. I guess tonight will be a CPE. Oh,
yo, just so you know, hacking a box on Hack the Box is now 8 CPE credits. So that's probably a better use of your time than sitting through some freaking boring ass sales training.
Neat. So
I used to love to go. I mean, before COVID, I'd go to the conferences, and I would do. I mean, I could do in like 2 or 3 conferences. I could do a year and a half of CPEs, and I was done. Okay.
That is, I kind of don't want to use CPEs from conferences because then I feel like, I don't want to tell a fucking network fucking Cisco, oh, you do cybersecurity. Let me start spamming you with cybersecurity advertisements now.
Yeah, just make a freaking email address alias, like your regular email at Gmail, and then put like plus vendor name, and then set a rule so all those go to their own little folder in your inbox, and you never have to look at them.
Well, I give them my work email, and that solves the problem.
I have such a visceral hatred of advertisements and marketing that I will go through 10, 20, 30, 40 more hours of work if it means not getting my name put on another goddamn marketing list.
Well, what's your email, by the way?
It's called FU at okay, no.
But here's the thing. I actually go to the conferences and talk to the vendors because part of my job is purchasing. Okay. I said, what do you got? What am I interested in? Do you have a PKI management system that is not going to cost me, $100,000? No, we don't know. What's PKI? Oh, I mean,
public key infrastructure, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's like I get the deer in the headlights look when I ask them, do you have a PKI system?
By the way, I am bionic now, just so you know. I like this, and boom, I can see that my sugar's high always.
All right.
So, yeah, man, bionic.
And that's all. Yeah, it's great to know you can't really drink.
Well, no, what I found was really fucked. I wasn't even like, this was not near me, and my sugar got high, and somehow this, which is only supposed to communicate over NFC, which would mean it's got to be like right here, this was going off telling me my sugar was high, and I'm trying to figure out how the hell it did that, because it shouldn't have known that because I hadn't scanned it in a while. So I want to learn how they do that. Also, this is supposed to have Libre Link 2 is supposed to have an Android app, but the government in the U.S. did not approve the use of the Android app for whatever the fuck reason, but they approved the use of this little thing. So I'm using this little thing. But in the UK and everywhere else in the world, you can just use your Android to do this. So I downloaded just the UK APK version and installed it, and then it's like, oh, please install this with Google Play. You seem to be outside of your country you're allowed to use it in. And I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna have to make a phone, and the whole installation of the phone is gonna have to be over a VPN to the UK so that I can just check my shit with a phone.
Yeah, you can do an Android VM. That's fairly easy.
Well, I know, and I can then pass through an NFC reader that's USB. But I want to just have in my pocket the ability to not have to carry this around with me and just check my shit with the phone. And I don't want to have to reverse engineer their protocol using NRF Toolkit or something to do it. So I'm just going to make a phone that's always going to be VPN'd over to the UK and then carry that phone with me. Because, I mean, yeah, the VPN is going to eat probably like 10% of the battery at any given charge, but now I have a phone that's always going to be VPN'd out of the country, so it's also useful to have.
Only
10%. You can always flip the VPN on and off. You know, you don't have to run the thing all the time.
I'm going to use WireGuard, so it uses a lot less than OpenVPN, because OpenVPN is a battery sucker on Android devices. WireGuard.
Actually,
You can just use a commercial VPN like whatever, Surfshark or whoever. Yeah.
Nah, man. Nah.
The one that NSA probably sponsors, because they were cheaper.
But Google made their own VPN too. You spin up a server with their like an Ubuntu server. You run their dev file, and then it just turns it into a VPN for you and tells you, here's the file you need on your phone.
Just get one of those free instances on Amazon, set up a VPN server, and go out of that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Or like I got there's a VPS service, Linode. They gave me $100 credit for creating a new account, and I'm probably just going to use that to spin up a the cheapest possible tier VPN, and have it run as long as possible, like maybe 1 gig of memory and a very tiny hard drive, and just put like a WireGuard or something on there and just go through it. But yeah. Anyway, so we got a lot of shit to talk about in the show notes. First thing is the window printer nightmare, or print nightmare 0-day bug. This is something I've actually theorized about before when I'm installing stuff on a print server, because like you go and you attach a new printer right to the network. You don't have domain admin creds usually. You're like some user, right? And then all of a sudden, all these people need to print to it. So you're going to attach it usually not directly to every computer, but to a print server. The print server will pull down the drivers if they can find it from Microsoft. But if they can't find it for that device ID, it prompts that user who doesn't have admin rights to provide an installation source, which is going to be in that file format. I forgot what the freaking thing is. But
cab?
No, not a cab file, but a pull INF. Yeah, INF points to the cab. But yeah. So it asks the user for the installation lead, and then it installs that on a server that the user doesn't normally have admin rights to, without asking or prompting for an elevation. So using, I think, that same methodology is probably how this bug works, where you just provided an illicit DLL file that that you control, like give it a bad DLL, an application extension, and it's going to run your code on a print server. And a lot of places, the print server also just happens to be the domain controller, because they only have one Windows server, especially small offices and places. So this could be used to essentially get system level access to a domain controller through the Windows print spooler. And then they demonstrate it,
Yeah, I don't allow that. And they can't do that because I don't allow them to put that garbage on my system.
Well,
And
say it's a normal domain user, and then they get to provide the install media for Windows Server 2019. So they tell it, here's the DLL to use, and then it loads it onto the domain controller.
well,
So
you can't do that. They have to run Windows Update to get the drivers, and that'll fix that.
Okay. So if Windows Update can't find it, what's it do next? It prompts the user for the install media.
They call me because
Yeah. I guess you can probably control it.
Yeah, I can't print. Oh, that's because you installed the wrong driver.
Yeah, they always pick the wrong printer. Sometimes it's not even the right vendor. People are stupid. It's like they install a Canon driver for a freaking Epson printer. It's like, what are you doing? It's not even close.
Well, some of them actually work. The Ricoh works on the Sharp printers for whatever reason. The Konica Ricoh stuff.
I found out recently that the Element TVs respond to the Samsung remotes, even though they're completely different things. It's weird. Some vendors just use, I guess, the same specs to build their shit.
There's probably a few keys that are wrong, a few buttons that are wrong on that. I mean, it's kind of weird about the stupid remote thing. Yeah, it's getting ridiculous about how to program your stupid remote.
Yeah, I think this article should have been hackers waste 0 day to mass wipe my book live drives, because I mean, if I had a 0 day and had access to tons and tons of people's data on their drives at home, I certainly wouldn't waste that level of access as a hacker, or even as a white.
You wouldn't waste access to wiping everyone's stuff.
Why would you wipe everybody's shit if you have access to it? There's so much better stuff you could have done. You could have pulled down all that data. Not better stuff, you know what I mean? There's like
out forth. You're a voyeur. You want to look at people's home nudes.
No, what I'm saying is, it's like when I was a fireman. We used to say, we're going to the big one, or like, see you at the big one. And we weren't hoping for a fire. We were just like, or like, it's just the way people talk in the industry. It's like, oh, that was a good hack. It doesn't mean we think that, oh, it would. By good, it was like a positive thing. It just, that was a good hack. It was impressive how they did that.
I like how you're so defensive.
Well, I can.
It's her fault. It's all your fault. You over there.
I can tell you, I ran a couple of stupid my books a long time ago, and you had to connect them with USB. It was USB 2, by the way. There wasn't any of this Wi-Fi garbage on them, and they broke. They died, and so they're MyBook deads. Cheapo 5,300 RPM, 1 terabyte drives or something like that heated up and burned out.
Yeah, so they're running the factory restore script that's on them.
Now, how do you know they haven't actually copied all the data off this drive as well?
We don't. I mean, look, the research that's done when they broke the story, it started out with a bunch of NAS drive owners suddenly discovering their files were gone, right? And the factory reset also reset the admin password so they couldn't even log into their shit to see what happened. And then some users analyzed the logs, and they found a script ran called factory restore. And then it executed and wiped their drives. Now, if any of these people happen to have like maybe Security Onion running on their local network keeping logs, maybe they could do some further DFIR type work. But from elementary reports, all we know is devices are being wiped. Now, could it be possible they're copying data out first and then wiping the drives? I mean, that would not be unheard of, especially with ransomware groups. I mean, a lot of them moved away from ransomware to extortion, where it's like, yeah, we used to just, encrypt your stuff and then tell you want your access to your shit back, pay us money.
People started doing backups, so no, we have to do something that's backup proof.
Yeah, so now we'll leak all your data if you don't give us money. And you know what? Even if you give them money, some of these groups are just fucking selling it on the dark web anyway to anybody who wants it. They're just not publicly releasing it as like a file attached to like some leak site, They're still sharing it with their friends. It's not like you're gonna, once it's out, it's out. I mean, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. But yeah, so they're doing a spray and pay attack. It looks like from the limited information they've got, it's a curl request. So it's like this is curl request. It's like you're on Linux, you type curl instead of or wget if you know what the fuck you're doing, and then you attack your endpoint. Who cares? All right, they go through how it works. If you care, read it. If you don't read it. Next, we have unpatched VM takeover is affecting Google Compute Engine. Now, if you don't know what Google Compute Engine is, think of AWS, but for Google. And they essentially have an issue here where somebody's using a vulnerability to take over VMs that are not theirs. Whoa. Forgot to turn her off. So this is impersonating metadata, the metadata server from the targeted virtual machine's point of view. By mounting this exploit, the attacker can grant access to themselves over SSH and then log in as the root user. This has not yet been patched by Google and is actively being used to take over VMs. It is a consequence of a weak pseudo-random number used in the DHCP client, resulting in a scenario where an adversary crafts multiple packets using a set of pre-calculated transmission identifiers and then floods the victim's DHCP, leading to the impersonation of the metadata server. That is a pretty complex freaking attack chain right there that I don't know how the hell to do it, but I'm sure somebody could script it out, and they probably have.
It's not that complex. No, it's built in to Linux and stuff like that.
Yeah. I've never tried doing that. So the temporary remediation is if you're running running servers in their infrastructure to block port UDP 68 between VMs, so that another VM can't do this. Interesting. Back in September of last year, they rectified a local privilege escalation vulnerability in the OS config tool that could be exploited. So yeah, they do pass their stuff. I've seen a lot of people talk very positively about the Google security team's responses to these things. So I wouldn't expect it to be around for much longer if it does still work at the time of me talking about it here on the cast.
It's probably gone by now, but I mean, Google. I mean, I don't know why they put a backdoor in their stuff anyway. Why did they put that port 68? I mean, that's garbage. Why,
I mean, go ahead.
You hire enough. Google kind of lost its reputation as having some of the best and the brightest in the industry when they became more concerned with numbers of engineers and programmers. Like they had to compete as quickly as possible. Standards had to go down, and that was, Google's downfall as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Next week, I already took that one. I already covered that one. This one's pretty interesting. The Windows 11 Trusted Platform Diagnostics tool is the first optional tool being released related to the new Windows 11 release. So people have been complaining when they go to install Windows 11 that it will block their installation on a lot of computers because they don't have the latest Trusted Platform module, or at least I think the latest is 2.2, but this requires 2.0 or above, and a lot of computers are still on 1.2, and some computers don't have it at all. And or if they do have it, it's disabled in the BIOS, and they'd have to reboot and fix it. Well, why does Windows 11 even require a trusted platform module, you may ask? But what is a trusted platform module?
It's made in China.
Yeah, everything's made in China.
So now you're going to get a Chinese virus. It's besides COVID.
Well, the trusted platform module is used in a lot of pseudo-random number generation tasks. It's used for secure boot stuff. It's used to generate encryption keys. It doesn't. There's other ways to do all that stuff too.
It's basically a mini hardware security module for a PKI system. Okay, and you can actually use it as you can use TPM for PKI. Okay, to store encrypted keys and stuff like that. The issue is that I mean, for example, let me give you an example of what really is a mess. Dell 13th gen servers, you can't reuse a TPM. Okay?
Why not?
You can't erase. You have Dell. You have to. It has to be factory erased, or you can stick it back in the server. You have to run a utility on that stupid server to clear out the TPM, before you can install another TPM on it. Otherwise, if you pull that TPM because you're troubleshooting, and you put it back in, it's gonna blow up. And that is something that they added. So anything that's an R730 or 630 and above, it's a single use item. There's a TPM chip.
Well, I've seen that there are Chinese vendors selling TPM chips that you can pop in there if your computer doesn't have one. I don't quite know how the fudge that would even work, because if your computer doesn't have one, where are you going to put it in the first place? Because it'd be like installing a freaking mod chip to an Xbox, you know?
Well, I bought one from Gigabyte, and then it was like at $27 or something like that for my Gigabyte motherboard. I mean, I buy TPMs. I mean, I got a few of them around here.
Yeah, so they've made a new tool that will allow you to do TPM related functions, where you can like check out the abilities of your TPM. It's called TPM Diagnostics. It'll run under Windows 10, and it's out now. So yeah,
Nice.
But yeah, the thing I still don't get is why they're making it so only people with the TPM can run this latest version. You'd think they would want their latest version of Windows to be compatible on as much hardware as possible, not to limit it to a certain subset of computers, because that would, of course, lead to the same issue we had where people were refusing to upgrade from XP to Windows 7, I guess, where it was like, I'm not going to upgrade because it won't run on my system. I would need a whole new system. So why would I upgrade? And then that got people just running Windows XP until like freaking 2025, you know? They're not getting security updates. They're spreading malware to the rest of the network, but guess what? They didn't have to upgrade. So
well, here's the deal. I mean, I think it's the Intel 9th gen processors and above have all that stuff built in. I thought maybe it's the 8th gen too.
Just because it's built in, one, doesn't mean it's enabled. A lot of places will lock down the BIOS so their employees can't screw with it. I've been at government facilities where the BIOS was locked down, and yeah, you could, of course, pop out the freaking clock battery thing, the CMOS battery, and then reset the BIOS and then do your stuff. But most people don't know how to do that. So
actually, if you password protect that stuff, it stays in non-volatile RAM. I mean, I had dealing with laptops that they put a security password on. You have to go to HP and give them a code for them to unlock the stupid laptop, because you don't know the stupid password just to update the BIOS. You can't even update the BIOS without
right.
They lock it down. I got a laptop just like that. I mean,
I've heard people talking at HackerCons about how the TPM is an NSA backdoor, and I don't know if it's true or not. I've never dumped one, so I don't know what the hell is even in that firmware that's running on there. But like, I mean, it is awfully odd that all of a sudden we need to have the TPM enabled. I mean, yeah, it's if you want to put BitLocker on your computer, of course you're going to need the TPM, but there's no reason. I mean, most people are not going to install BitLocker on their OS by default unless it's a work laptop, maybe. And even if it is a work laptop, they're only going to put BitLocker on there if it's like they have some PCI or HIPAA type requirement that makes it so they have to, So to require a TPM just to install an OS is stupid. And it's also probably going to drive a lot of these users to Linux or something, just because they're just staying on Windows 10. Because
I don't think they're going to do that. I think that they might require a more modern processor or something like that. But it's already built into the Intel CPUs. I'm sure the AMD. I haven't messed with it. I mean, I actually run TPM chips on an AMD systems, but the thing is that it's already built in. Security's built in already, so to the more modern CPUs. especially if you got Intel management engine and stuff, you already got security in there. That may be the NSA backdoor. I mean, I don't really see that they put an NSA backdoor on a stupid TPM chip, okay, that's made in China.
Dude, why wouldn't they? Supply chain attacks are nothing new. I mean, it's just like if it's just because something's manufactured in another country doesn't make it any harder or easier for them to put illicit code on there that gives them backdoor access to stuff. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if China's, not putting. I'd be more surprised if they were not putting some kind of backdoor that they could later use in these chips from China. But I mean, like, I would also think the NSA is probably doing it because, I mean, they could just claim ignorance. They could be like, yeah, we put that in there, but it was security override we never intended to use, or like, it's in case to protect the children, some shit. They come up with some valid excuse for why they could violate every person's privacy. They did it when they were intercepting everybody's phone calls back in the day, and they were like, oh, we're only collecting metadata. Were you only collecting metadata? Because, I mean, Snowden talks about how they just, when they were bored and just listen in on X's phone calls because they could.
Sure.
I
mean, here's the thing. If it crosses a border, okay, then they can surveil it, all right? And they can just route traffic into Canada, and if it comes back, they can listen to it because that's import and export.
Right.
But they have caps on a number of purely domestic IXPs, though. Like, you're not going to be able to determine the full path traffic took if you have a tap an IXP in the middle of in the middle of the United States.
Well, I would say the way routing works, most people wouldn't even realize that their shit went to China and back. I mean, unless you're doing freaking like actually looking at your traffic as it's being routed, which nobody does. I mean, if your shit went through like a Chinese ISP and then came back and went to somewhere else, I mean, yeah, there'd be an extra 2 hops. But other than that, most people are not going to even realize it happened. I mean, it's kind of like if you pop a network, right? And now you decide I'm going to ARP spoof. I'm going to become the gateway. Does anybody know that you became the gateway just about their regular day-to-day stuff? No, unless you're maybe installing a new cert, on every. Unless you're requiring that you want to crack SSL traffic, which would require having a cert in everybody's box. But if you're a nation state, you don't need to do that because you can just have a cert that you've signed that's already in the chain that everybody in your country uses. So you can decrypt all that traffic already. So you could see HTTPS traffic. You could just look at the TPI on the freaking packets and see where shit's going anyway.
Well, they can actually do man in the middles with proxies, and you wouldn't even know because they would cache all that stuff.
Right.
They're pretty sneaky about it. I mean, they've been doing that with Tor networks and stuff. So.
Well, Tor, my favorite Tor attack I talk about all the time was where some people bought a bunch of Tor exit nodes. Well, they bought a bunch of servers, turned them into Tor exit nodes, and they did essentially a 51% attack, but not really, where they targeted just these few Bitcoin tumblers, and whenever somebody would use them, they would silently replace the addresses where things were being sent with their own addresses, and then people would be sending them Bitcoin. And then as far as everybody was concerned, the Bitcoin left address A and went to address B, but address B now didn't match the one that the person intended to send it to. Well, it must have been a mistake when they typed it. Not our fault. Move along, And they didn't do it at such a frequency. They did it to like every transaction that went through it. They would do it to some of them. Some of them would be very small transactions. Some of them would be huge transactions. And it took months for them to even figure out it was being done at all. Because, I mean, most people, they're just going to figure the Tumblr stole my money. Who are you going to complain to about that? There's no freaking dark net police that you can go to and be like, hey, my illegal activity was stolen by somebody doing another illegal activity. It's like, I guess you're shit out of luck.
Yeah.
And news that surprises absolutely nobody whatsoever. Ministry of Defense employee has been charged in a child pornography case. This stems from his participation in the Pedo Pub web forum. He was a UK Ministry of Defense employee. He was been jailed for 16 months and found guilty of storing and sharing child pornography. He was a resident of Bristol. His name is Philip Nutt. I shit you not. And Phil Nutt over here has appeared in front of a judge and pled guilty to both possessing, making, and distributing child pornography. I wonder how much making and distributing child porn will get you these days. Let's find out. He used his IT skills and to source and download child abuse images from the dark web. He was arrested during his holiday home. He was on holiday in Cornwall. And during the raid, the police discovered about 300 images and videos on his phone and computers he had on him. However, he managed a much more extensive collection stored overseas on cloud accounts. With assistance from international law enforcement agencies, they were able to discover 445 folders containing 18,641 files, including images and hundreds of child pornography videos. And some of them documented entire cases of abuse lasting up to 2 hours. The employee disguised his mobile collection as a lockbox app and a calculator. However, he also frequented a forum on the dark web where he would discuss his activities. If you're going to do something stupid and illegal, don't fucking go to a forum and brag about it. I have a false camera storage as well, so if anyone asks to see my photos, it'll show the normal people photos. He's using Stego. All right. His conviction serves as a warning to all that our work and the partners across the globe to safeguard children. Look, I love when people fucking bring down pedos because fuck those guys. For as long as the demand for this material remains in depraved people like Nut, it will continue to be supplied. So, yeah, I hope they throw the book at him, because anybody who hurts a child, I don't believe in hell, but if I did, I'd say there's a special place in hell for them.
Well, it looks like Phil was full, and he had to offload his nuts.
But
I would like to add that only an insane person even messes with this stuff, because you know how much the U.S. budget for tracking down finding
the thing is, the people,
it's like billions of dollars.
The people who have to investigate this shit for a living have to look at it, and like I feel bad for them.
Oh yeah,
it's like, imagine your day-to-day job. You have to be exposed to this shit, and you like maybe have to even if you have to pull down images of this and then maybe like stuff some trackers in them and then send them along. So the next person who opens it'll beacon out to you, and you can see the IP address of who's sharing the child porn stuff, right? Even if your job is just that, it involves day-to-day opening child porn and having to look at children being like really hurt and abused. So it'll probably fuck you up. Probably a faster rate of burnout than there is for SOC analysts. You know.
Well, I can tell you that there are multiple agencies investigating. Okay, and there's a lot of money spent cracking down on this stuff. And I went to some briefings from the Secret Service on how they were tracking down this stuff. And so I'm not sure how various agencies and the DOJ are doing doing this stuff. I mean, I haven't done a child porn briefing in a long time, but it was quite interesting. Some of these guys who were hosting child porn servers, they would keep all the stuff in RAM. Okay. And so all they had to do is hit a switch and turn everything off, and it would go away. And so the Secret Service agents investigating these guys would have to figure out how to keep their equipment on so they couldn't turn it off. They had to come in. These guys are not in and hack their computers where that they can't use a kill switch anymore. It's crazy stuff they were doing to keep the computers on so they can grab the data out of RAM that they were using to distribute child porn movies and pictures and stuff like that.
Well, they were grabbing hackers for something. They I remember they had a guy in a coffee shop who was using his machine, and they wanted to grab the machine without him closing it and having it lock, or even reboot. So what they did was they just distracted him with a pretty girl who came by and like was flirting with him. And while he was distracted, they had somebody swipe the laptop, And I mean, I guess that's the kind of shit you got to resort to, because if all it takes is somebody to say like, "Okay, Google, initiate house party protocol," then what the yeah. So it'd be cool if it actually did something. It'd be like all of a sudden Iron Man suits fly out, and I'll have to add that in post. So
Is it, even though it gets the job done, is it worth breaking someone's rights?
Autumn, you need to turn up your mic volume a little bit because you're very quiet.
Turn up the mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Even though it's being used for good, it can, by giving them that power, they can enter that gray area to catch child molesters and pedophiles. Then they can turn that against the people. So I don't want them to take that risk just to catch a pedophile, just because the government has a history of abusing powers that we give them.
Well, let me explain to you. They detect activity, okay, and so they see some traffic, from known pedophiles into these various systems, and they pop up, and so then they get a search warrant that allows them to do it, and also they can also have cross-border agreements. So if they're going across the U.S. border, they can share information concerning this stuff. So if it goes to Britain or it goes to Europe somewhere, they'll share the information. Oh, these guys are doing this, and vice versa. The investigative agencies share that information to across the pond there. So there's a bunch of ways they do it, and then yes, they do get warrants before they start grabbing people's stuff. And yes, they can route traffic across borders to view it. And it happens. So they're good at it. I mean, when you're facing billions of dollars in budgets, yeah, you're not going to beat those guys. So don't do it.
Well, I'm not saying that it's a matter of beating those guys or not. What I'm thinking is that Autumn does have kind of a point here that yes, we want to catch these guys, but should we, for instance, lower everybody else's security?
Open Pandora's box, release all of the evils, and inside lies hope.
For instance, like if they say, hey, we're going to have to mandate that everybody who uses encryption puts an NSA backdoor in everything that they use, and say, well, but it will prevent people, it will help us catch pedophiles if we do this. Yeah, I'm all for catching pedophiles, but why should I have to now lower my level of security to the point where if NSA can get in, I'm sure somebody else can figure out how to get in the same way.
Well, yeah, that's true, and I don't think that they aim to do that. I mean, I know they hate they don't want everybody to be secret, but here's the thing: they're very good at catching these guys, okay, because they monitor traffic from known sources overseas and everywhere, which is not necessarily under their control. So they just follow the traffic as it comes into the country. so that's how they get their warrants and figure it out. And it doesn't matter about the encryption. They're going to catch the guy live or whoever live.
Well, that would be the hope. But the thing is, they have written bills that may still get passed, like the Lawful Access to Encrypted Data Act, right? It's going to end. Yeah, that's not good shit for us if you're an InfoSec.
Well,
I mean,
we have to have encryption because there's too many adversaries. I mean, there's external adversaries that want to steal from us. Okay, we have to have it. And you're also talking about entire blockchain and cryptocurrencies are based on strong encryption.
the thing is, it's giving the keys to somebody. There shouldn't be any keys besides between you and who you agree, right? It's an encrypted file, encrypted anything. It's an agreement between two parties, and as soon as you insert a third party, that's no longer, the encryption is no longer useful. If you're going to create a secondary key that can unlock everything, that's breaking the whole point of encrypting something.
That's true.
And what I'm saying is, once they insert a backdoor method, people are going to figure out. I mean, one, they're going to have to write about it to make it legal. They're going to have to publish a lot of specs about it, right? And once the specs are out there, people are going to reverse engineer it. I can imagine somebody who's like brilliant, like somebody like, I don't know, the freaking guy from Red Balloon, Ong. I can't say his last name, Chu or something. Ong could like reverse engineer any encryption you throw at him. Like you'd be like, oh, yeah, this took us 15 years to make this encryption, and he'd be like, oh, I cracked it in an afternoon while I was high. It's like, okay, well, back to the drawing board. It's so the second you crack the encryption to a degree where there's like another key that anybody. I'm not talking like breaking SHA-512. I'm talking like you now have created a key the government has, and the government can unlock anything that is signed is the wrong word, encrypted with this algorithm.
Well, here's the thing, okay? So I understand crypto mining, and what do you think crypto mining does? It's trying to find the key to a block so you get rewarded, okay? So imagine you put a bunch of hash power on some of this stuff. You're going to find that key pretty quick, all right? Yeah. So yeah, they can't do it. It's just not going to work because I got hardware to break that stuff.
You're muted, baby.
Even 64-bit, and I know they're going to SHA-3 on a lot of cryptocurrencies, and they'll be able to crack that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's only a matter of the resources that you're going to throw at something. If you've got access to like a freaking, I don't know, a lot of money, you can crack something. Because if you have unlimited resources, you could just spin up whatever the hell you need to crack something. You can get like 1,000 freaking compute instances, each one of them with like the equivalent of a 2080 or something even better attached, right? And you could spin them up and have them crack something. I mean, it's an amazingly parallel task. So if you can throw a shit ton of GPU at it, you're going to crack it a lot faster.
Oh, you bet. As a matter of fact, if you got the money, just create a cryptocurrency and say, hey, if you solve this problem, you get the pot, and here is several million or whatever. Okay.
Oh, my Facebook buddy Derek created a cryptocurrency, and he I mean, even if you create your own cryptocurrency, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful and have like, well, that came out really harsh. I'm so sorry, Derek. I meant like, just because you're able to be brilliant and do something like create your own cryptocurrency, it doesn't mean that, you are still going to, I forgot my fucking point.
It's called find the NSA backdoor cryptocurrency.
Right.
And if you solve the blockchain, you make big bucks. Find all the back doors.
Yeah. Well, I'm still, the jury's still out on whether or not Satoshi was a Fed or not. So We'll see.
I think Satoshi was a drug dealer.
Really? You think so?
Yeah.
That'd be a pretty brilliant drug dealer. That would be, I don't know. It'd have to be one hell of a mind, a mathematical mind, to come up with the concept of Bitcoin to begin with, and also to implement it in such a way where years later it hasn't been significantly cracked. That whole, the distributed hashing algorithm stuff they got going, where it's like a giant ledger, but when you update it here, it also updates there, and nobody can fuck with that update in between here and there. To set that all up in such a way where it works, and it's the first time it's being built, and years later it still hasn't been taken apart and dismantled, and they're actually using it as the basis of building similar cryptocurrencies. I would say that person had to be pretty freaking smart.
Yep.
And usually people who are that intelligent don't and do things like that end up working for the government whether they want to or not. It's like
Well, maybe this was a multi-billionaire drug dealer.
Maybe it was a Fed. You never know.
Well,
I don't think it's that mathematician guy who claims it was him and he's trying to grab the copyright for it. There's some dude out there. He's like, I was the creator of Bitcoin. I went by Satoshi. The guy's not even a weeaboo. Why would a freak would you pick that name? I mean, come on, garbage, lies.
Supposedly this drug dealer is no longer living. The original creator of the blockchain. But I mean, the thing about Bitcoin itself is it's a fairly simple. It's still 32-bit. Okay, it's fairly simple. It's not. I mean, you mine it, and whenever it gets harder, and then the last Bitcoin will be mined in the 2030s, and that's it. And a lot of other coins have kind of evolved where it just slows things down, but it'll still throw out a few coins.
Well, I thought there's still going to be some coins mined even after the blockchain is like technically done, because the way that they pay people to maintain the network that checks transactions is by mining. So if nobody's mining, then the cryptocurrency is done, because there's nobody verifying the wallet transactions.
Yeah, they're not going to create any new Bitcoins. They will charge some Satoshis to validate.
Right. So if they're still getting Satoshis to validate,
they're not creating new coin.
Then where are they coming from?
They're going to take it off the top.
How? That's my question. I don't understand the crypto that well.
They're going to charge the transaction a percentage to exchange.
Gotcha.
That's how most of the cryptocurrencies work anyway. If you're going to move some Ethereum off the main net to another exchange or something like that, or another currency, you're going to have to pay those gas fees. And where do you think that comes from? Doesn't come from you're not creating new coins to do it. You only get new coins generated when you solve a block. But if you process transactions, you get,
shower me in the Satoshis.
Or Gwei for Ethereum.
All right. So next, we have a story about Dell fucking up royally again. This time, it is a bug in the way their BIOS updates work that would allow a remote attacker who happens to be on the same LAN as you to push a fake update to your Dell machine through a series of chained exploits. And then your machine would accept their BIOS update. And then when you reboot, it would essentially be able to, do what you can do with BIOS level access, which would be put a rootkit there probably. Or maybe just, remote update everybody on my network to the latest BIOS for their Dell. That would totally be a legit use for it. The vulnerability is a chain. It has a cumulative CVSS score of 8.3, and it abuses the Dell Connect and Dell Support Assist features. There are 128 different laptops and desktops and tablets vulnerable to this particular attack chain. I'm sure if you were to modify the attack chain a little bit, you could probably get it to be even more compatible with more Dell stuff. The BIOS Connect facility can be used to recover an OS in case of a corruption or firmware issue. And normally it will connect to Dell and pull a request code for the user's device, but you can actually bypass that part and gain arbitrary remote code execution within the BIOS of a machine. It's going to attempt to connect to Dell's backend HTTP server, but any valid wildcard signed cert will work, meaning that you could just pretty much sign a certificate with like Let's Encrypt and impersonate Dell. And once you do that, you are able to proxy and pretend to be Dell and send firmware to the victim's device.
So you could basically create a Dell.local. So you could do your own homegrown SSL commands.
Right, and if you are clever enough, you can figure out the vulnerability that allows, not really vuln, but you know how Let's Encrypt works, right? It will try and resolve an address. If it can resolve it, and you could put a file on that address, and then it will be like, oh, yes, that does exist, and this is the resource, then it will allow connections to it, and it'll give it a cert. So if you control a local domain, you can technically sign it with a Let's Encrypt cert if you're clever. And now you've got a cert that's like, say, Dell.local, or, you could even make it Dell.com if you're clever enough with your DNS server locally, If you're going to screw around and just do WPAD stuff, you could even probably do it all up in there. Like a responder attack, essentially, but with a signed cert. So, yeah.
Now, I don't use Dell support. I mean, I use Dell, but I don't use this looks like all the consumer class junk that they throw on that I pull off, and I install systems, more of a system management stuff.
They should have called this one fucking hell, Dell.
But I agree that it's been a bug for a long time, and I mean, I run some of the auto update stuff, but it's not the Dell support garbage that they're talking about. This looks like the crapware they put on the systems, which I removed and install my own stuff downloaded from Dell.
Correct. This would be the pre-installed crapware that is there. If you're building your own image, it's not going to be vulnerable to this unless you went to Dell to pull down your drivers. And then you installed those drivers that Dell's got by default on their site that would then install this crap anyway.
Actually, I installed Dell drivers, but I don't install the crap. Okay, that's a utility, and I don't allow that. Because there is a Dell management utilities that I do install. Okay, and that shouldn't be part of this. I mean, yes, the BIOS thing, but it shouldn't. If you download a BIOS update, I mean, even Windows Update is downloading BIOS updates now. Okay, to bypass this junk. So
your BIOS should be up to date if you want to play with the latest and greatest toys. But the thing is, a lot of people never update their BIOS. Like most people I know who have bought a Dell is running the factory install image of Dell, and I mean that means there's going to be a lot of computers that are vulnerable to this particular vulnerability. So if you have access to a LAN, even say at a coffee shop, and there's a bunch of people sitting around on Dell laptops, I mean, you could use this attack theoretically to pop some new firmware on every laptop that's a Dell in that coffee shop. And the next time they reboot, guess what? They're now running your firmware. And you could put some pretty malicious stuff in a rootkit. So that's very high level access. Well, technically low level access to the computer. All right.
I've actually hacked firmware before, believe it or not, to bypass certain things that were preventing me from doing stuff.
I've hacked firmware to change a simple flag from a 1 to a 0 to enable FTP, And then once FTP was enabled, then I could just log into the stupid device with the creds that you could find in the etc password file, etc shadow file, which were easily cracked. It was like there was a name of the manufacturer and like I think a month and a date and an exclamation point. But the thing is the ability to extract firmware from a device using like the hell is that thing called? A bus pirate, right? And then like taking that firmware and running it through binwalk, and then once, or even just looking at the image file under like an archiver and like opening it up and then navigating through the file system. That skill set is not one most hackers have.
Right.
I mean, like there are industry people who are very versatile and like know the difference between extracting firmware and like and doing this kind of stuff. But I'm losing my train of thought here. What I'm saying is this is a very esoteric skill set that is not your typical hacker thing that they're going to know. It's like your typical hacker knows Linux probably. They know how to like maybe pop a shell. They might know a little bit about command and control, and like they probably understand Active Directory and how that works, and they probably have some good networking knowledge. But not everybody knows everything about everything. And the further we get into some of these vulnerabilities, like this one-click account takeover vulnerability, right? Yeah, it involves knowing how to exploit both cross-site scripting and a bunch of other stuff. Like, yeah, you can take it apart and you can figure out how it works if you already have the skill set to do so. But not everybody who's a hacker knows how every exploit they're going to use actually works under the hood. They probably should, but I mean, if you're a pen tester, even you come across something you've never seen before, you do a little research into it, you get to kind of figure it out. Before you actually use that exploit on a client system, you should try and set up a version of that in your own lab and try and exploit against it.
Set up your prototypes.
Definitely. I mean, it takes a little longer to verify first, but you're not now risking knocking over like a business critical system during a test because you wanted to test some exploit you found, or especially if you come across only like DOS exploits for something, and now you can maybe get a copy of like some old pro FTP software, right? So you pull it down locally and you try and take that DOS exploit and turn it into RCE because there's a lot of space. Like after you do a jump EIP and you found a place you can write, like, and then you realize you're going to have to bypass ASLR, and like you have to learn how to do that, and there's a lot of work that goes into writing an exploit. I'm not very good at it, but I understand the methodology. And like some people though don't have that level, and they're never going to be able to do that. So they're not going to be able to like pass the OSCP because they're not going to be able to do the box where you have to write an exploit. So even though it's a simple buffer overflow, that's beyond the level of knowledge a lot of script keys are ever going to have. So there's definitely a technical divide in these exploits. And I think a lot of people don't realize that just because somebody can hack something doesn't necessarily mean they're the kind of hacker who develops exploits. There's different skill sets everybody's got. Some people are good at some things. Some people can write freaking firmware. Most hackers can't. Not only can't they write their own firmware, they're not even going to know how to freaking take apart a freaking bin file and like look inside of it. It's like that's an esoteric skill set. Not everybody's got it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, gem files are Windows 101. I mean, that's just But
I'm talking like a firmware.bin file that you use to flash on the device. It's usually actually
a bin file.
Really, it's really like the .image file, but yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I'll go through a hex editor and I'll look. I mean, I say for example, I'm restricted because it's a stupid EMC BIOS on a stupid hard drive. So I need to hack that sucker so that I can update the stupid BIOS on that stupid hard drive. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I have to find every little piece and whack the crap out of it until I can get it to run a firmware update on the thing, and that's a challenge.
Agreed. But it's worth it when you figure it out, because the reason we hack these things, it's not necessarily because we want the end result of the hacking. It's because we enjoy learning about how it works, right? We enjoy figuring out, like, oh, if I'm able to dump this firmware and then gain access to this closed system, then there's all this cool shit I could do, and it becomes a project. And we love projects. Like, I think
because I can buy the hard drives that are these proprietary firmware for half the price of the other hard drives, and so I'm saving a buku bucks by just zapping the things.
Right. And what I'm saying is that's another thing, like overcoming planned obsolescence in hard drives, or taking a product apart, understanding how it works, getting under the hood, building stuff. And like, that's the passion, that's the maker spirit. And like, a lot of hackers don't have that. They don't care about learning. They care about the access, the prestige. They don't give a shit about understanding how things work and being a real hacker. They just want the spotlight, or that might not necessarily be their motivation, but it's not like the guys over at Loft, right? Those were real hackers, right? They got together because they loved taking shit apart. Like, they would go to the hospital where they were throwing out a bunch of medical devices and pick them up and bring them and fix them, and then they would just have medical equipment in their loft space, and they would dump the firmware, and they'd understand how it worked and like find vulnerabilities. And I think that spirit is just gone. It's for the majority of places and the hackers I come across, it's become so commercialized and so I don't even tell people I do pen tests, because the second I tell them that, then it becomes all about them wanting me to do fucking story time with this. I'm not this. I don't want to tell you my fucking stories. I do my job and I enjoy it, but you want to talk to me about things I'm passionate about, go for it, but don't try and get me to be like your fucking storyteller, like when Mitnick is up on stage and he does these little magic tricks for everybody. I'm not a fucking clown. Not that Mitnick's a clown, but I mean, I'm not like an entertainer. My job, I enjoy this. It's what I do for a living, luckily for me. But it's kind of become disgusting in our industry, where the few people who do actually give a shit what we do for a living want us to put on a show and tell every time we talk to them. And like, sometimes I just want to relax and have a beer with somebody. I don't want to have to fucking be I don't know, I guess a caricature of myself. Anywho.
Well, something to bring it up. I mean, at conferences, I actually like some of the labs and walkthroughs, like how to set up a honeypot and, use this software and here's what you need to do. And here's features you add and here's how you can really fool them and stuff like that. That's cool stuff. Okay. That's stuff I use. Okay. I mean, I want to know how to do this stuff. I don't, care about bragging rights or anything like that. It's not me.
Yeah. And anyway, so this exploit here was released by Checkpoint Research. It was a series of bugs found in Atlassian, who makes Jira, which is one of the most popular project management systems in the world, Confluence. And
yep.
The TLDR here is that you could take over somebody else's instance using cross-site scripting and content security policy, which I write about almost every time I do a pen test. The CSP should be enabled, but they never have it enabled. And this also, the HTTP only. So the thing is, if you're running a website, there's a couple of things you can do that makes it a lot more secure that really don't take much effort. And a lot of people don't put in the effort to do these things. And they didn't do these things, which allowed an attacker to use this exploit chain where essentially they can send data out that they shouldn't be able to send out. Like, if you had these protections in place, cross-site scripting attacks where you're able to like steal an administrative cookie would not work. Anyway. So just a one-click attack, and you can take over accounts and control of some Atlassian applications, including Jira and Confluence. The result is you have an easy way to do account hijacking, data theft, and essentially acting like somebody else. You can steal somebody's ticket. You can become the admin. all that fun stuff.
But I mean, I studied the OWASP stuff, and cross-site scripting was one of the big no-nos. Don't do it, and block it. And so we still have that. I mean, that was like that. I mean, maybe I mean, I think it was like early early parts of this decade is I learned about this stuff. I mean, I got CP points for it. Oh, no cross-site scripting. Here's how to block it. Here's how to fix that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like we all know cross-site scripting sucks and it can be used for bad. The issue is a lot of places where you have like bug bounties and you'll report something like cross-site scripting, they don't even count it as a finding, despite the ability for it to do a lot of evil, because it's one of those exploits that requires another person to do something else. So like you have to have somebody else on the site. Well, like you have to be able to trick an administrator into clicking a link, and if they click that link, you can now steal the admin login cookie, and now you're the admin, right?
You need a student person.
They don't care, because when these pen testers submit the, there's a cross-site scripting issue here, right? When they submit that, usually the finding will just be them popping like a JavaScript error alert message, and they don't understand that that is the very top of the iceberg, and underneath the waterline there's all that other stuff that you can do with it. So they just see it as, somebody can minorly annoy users of my site by popping up, and also people don't understand the difference between stored and reflected cross-site scripting. Site, they might only put in a report that you found stored, but if you can also do reflected with the same methodology, that now means any user of your site is a target. And if you're using the site and you have another user who is screwing around with the JavaScript that's being then executed in another user's browser, there's all sorts of evil fuckery that could be done.
Yeah.
There's a whole toolkit that I think it was Charles demonstrated for us many casts ago called BEEF, Browser Exploitation Framework, and it shows how you can use reflected cross-site scripting to read somebody else's Gmail that's open in another tab, right? So if somebody's using your website or using a website that you have gained access to, and they happen to be reading their Gmail in another tab in Firefox or Chrome, you can now read their email while they're on your site, or while they're on the site that you have access to. So there's a lot of evil that can be done. It's just people don't take it seriously. They won't pay out for it. So people don't even report on it. So, I mean, but yeah, it's still in the top 10. I think it's number 7 if memory serves. And I actually did a write-up on it for a report not long ago, because it was, you find it and then nobody cares. Nobody fixes it either. You report, you put it in the report that, this is a big deal. It's one of your top findings. They'll fix the other things and they leave it. So it's only cross-site scripting. All right.
Well, I've actually encountered similar stuff with obfuscated code. Okay, stuff that it shows up in an email. You can't read it because it doesn't reveal itself in HTML. And it's there, and so I mean, luckily it doesn't trigger any Java or anything like that. But you click on anything there, it's going to execute an attack and try to grab your Office 365 credentials or something like that. And so and I looked at the actual information on the raw information, and it's like, dang. These guys, they went. I mean, you can't tell what they're doing. It's really obfuscated, but it somehow or another it executes code that tries to get you to log into your Outlook web access or something like that.
So what I normally run into is like they won't set the HTTP only flag, right? This is a recent report I did where they didn't set the flag using the like when you're doing a cookie generator to help mitigate a client-side scripting attack. And so the protected cookie, if you're using it, like it generates the secure flag, that option is then like managed by the app server. And when it sends a new cookie to the user with an HTTP response, it's like a secure connection and only those two see it. Other ways, like you can, if it's not set, it can be intercepted. So if you're able to man in the middle, or even sometimes just somehow get a user to click a link while they're on that site, you can now steal the cookie from them and then log in as them. So, I mean, I see it on a lot of homebrew web apps that people build, is they just won't set the flag. If they just set that flag, and it only takes like a minute if you edit the config file on the server, you can fix it so it won't do that, but they don't do it. So, I mean, like CSP, they even have a cheat sheet for it. I'll pull up. And you can go and like it shows you how to defend against cross-site scripting very easily, or restricting remote scripts from being run on your server. A lot of the times people will have like such a poorly configured server where you have an LFI, and then you can read files on the local file system that's running the web server just by appending a path after a question mark, like PHP equals 1 question mark, and then anyway, the TLDR of it is you end up with an insecure website that's not only allowing any user with some somewhat more advanced knowledge of how websites work to read files on the local file system. And if you figure out like what OS it is, which is usually fairly trivial, you can usually figure out where things are stored that, and a lot of people won't even configure the web servers themselves to run unlimited user access accounts. They'll run the web server as like root. It's freaking retarded. Then you get in, and there's not even any privilege escalation necessary. You pop it and you're good, because people don't set things up securely in the first place. They just want it to run. And if it's running, it's good, but that's not always the best thing, Anyway, that is the end of our show notes for this week. We also want to talk briefly about McAfee. He passed away recently. Some people think he was killed. Some people think he killed himself. The official story the media is going with is that he offed himself, but there is, of course, the conspiratorial, that's not a word, conspiratorial people.
Conspiratorial.
There we go. Those people who are like, he didn't kill himself. He was killed just like they killed Epstein. Or, I've heard there's the whole Epstein killed himself thing. Some people have taken it another level, where now the conspiracy is he never died. They just like replaced his body with some homeless person that they got plastic surgery to look like him, and then he got whisked away in the middle of the night to like a black facility where he's being forced to give them intel on rich pedophiles who they then blackmail to do the bidding of the New World Order. And it's like, dude, these are the same people who believe that the moon landing never happened.
Well, actually, that may be more likely. They said this is Epstein's ear when he's alive, and this is Epstein's ear when he is dead, and they don't match. And you can, it's hard to fake an ear, and
that is pretty eerie, man.
I mean, that is more plausible because of what was at stake with Epstein. Okay, and the thing is that they needed him alive to extract the information rather than dead, where something's going to pop up, when John McAfee dies, it says, "Oh, here's the Epstein files," because poop on you.
Well, a lot of people. Whoa, hold on a second. I seem to have lost my window. I'll be right. Hover for a minute on them. I lost my window.
I'm backstage.
Hold on a second. Oh no. Too many windows open is going to be my downfall. I can't find it. Hey, can anybody hear me? Am I talking?
Hear you.
I don't know where the window is for StreamYard. I seem to have lost it. It's gone dark, man. Yeah, it's really weird how browsers work when you have like a shit ton of them open. I'm sure there's this tab open somewhere, but I can't find it.
You need
And
you need another monitor or two.
I've got a huge ass monitor and another monitor. I think I found it. Here it is. All right. And we're going to stop the screen share now. All right, Barry. And then there's Autumn. Hey, your bagel. Hi, Autumn.
Hey.
All right. Fuck Confluence. Yeah. Yeah, Andrew. Fuck Confluence. Right in its stupid face. And Jira, too. All right. So that's all the stuff in our show notes. Autumn, mute yourself for a sec. All right. So, last but not least, let's talk about the news. Now, in the U.S. here, if you're watching the news every day, you've no doubt come across the story of the building collapse in California and the need for our nation's critical infrastructure to get more regular testing
I thought it
as
was
well.
in Florida.
As well. What?
I thought
Oh,
it was in Florida, the Surfside, Florida.
Yeah, it happens a lot, and it was in the news a lot. And I seem to have mixed up Florida and California once again. Ugh, what do you want from me?
And, but they also had building collapses in China too, so that's just bad construction.
Yes. What I wanted to touch on though was that you turn on the news. The very first day it happened, they said, we recovered. They recovered, I think, nine people who were still alive, and they believe most of the rest of the people were probably going to be not found alive. But then, if you keep watching the story, it somehow becomes the death count is rising each day. Those people, it's been 5 or 6 days, maybe even 7 days now. They're probably all dead. It's very unlikely, very statistically improbable, at least, they're going to find anybody else who's still alive. So why don't they just announce the death toll is 200 and then adjust it as is or whatever it is, right? I think it's disingenuous, and I think it's the way the news is just filling dead airtime by just telling us this story over and over and over again, that it's already happened and they're just milking it for airtime at this point, rather than genuinely like reporting on all the horrible things that led to this. It's always the same story every day on the news. The death toll is rising in the building collapse, and this many people are dead, and we found this many bodies, and it's the same thing every day for like a week now, for at least 15 minutes in the broadcast. It's like, it happened. You reported on it. Move on. There's lots of other shit to talk about, like how there's a bill right now that is supposed to be about infrastructure, critical infrastructure, and fixing it so that our roads will stop like tumbling. Our roads will stop being destroyed and our bridges will stop breaking. And it's important to deal with critical infrastructure issues, but one side of the aisle is insisting that instead of it just being an infrastructure bill, it also be a human infrastructure bill, and that they include all these provisions for things like free daycare for every person who has a job who's working during the pandemic.
The fuck does that have to do with infrastructure?
That's what I'm saying. They're pending. It's pork, and they're putting pork in this bill so that their constituents will be like, see, my representative cares about me and wants me to go back to work, so they're going to get me childcare for my kid while I'm working. And a lot of these people have like jobs that pay $11 an hour, and the minimum they're going to get a babysitter for is going to be $15. And then we end up with this bill where we're now going to all foot the bill for everybody to have their kids taken care of while they go back to work. And I get that we already have school for that. I know school's also to educate, but I mean, let's get real. A lot of parents only care that their kids go to school so they can go to work and not have to watch them all day.
Or maybe they want the preschool to be and kindergarten to be covered because they need the kids to be gone so that they can make money, so they can afford things, and they don't have the time to watch the kid. And babysitters are, I don't know, I guess that's an option, but they think this would be more affordable on the lower income families.
And I agree, and they should write a bill for that and introduce it and let the Congress vote on it instead of appending it to an already existing infrastructure bill that needs to get passed so that our infrastructure can be fixed up. It has nothing to do with it. It's like, why are they introducing this element to the bill that has nothing to do? It's like when we have a bill about water rights in Indiana or something, and the next thing you know, they've got a provision to ban transgender athletes in schools attached to a water bill. Why is that in the water bill? Make a bill about it. And then they do, and then that bill gets shot down too. But that's another thing. And in the news, we have transgender issues in the news where states are banning people who were born as male from competing in sports that are done by females, and that's causing a big stir. It's like,
They're stupid laws to begin with. They're poorly created.
well, as a trans person, wouldn't you want to be able to compete in sports?
Yeah, but well, no, not really. But the problem with that is they only go after trans women, males to females. They don't go after female to male.
Well, I would argue that female to males don't have any competitive advantage, so why should they?
You just watched a Tim cast on that today. You already know my answer on it.
I'm trying to get you to talk about it, but thanks for fucking blowing my cover, schmucko.
Yeah. If you're gonna make a bill, it needs to be very well thought out. Don't just rush a bill. Just actually think of something that would work and be beneficial, like a category for trans people or something. It's not gonna be solved instantly.
That's good. I'm going to start my own Olympics. All right. What else do we have to talk about in the regular news?
McAfee didn't kill himself.
What?
McAfee didn't kill himself.
Are you kidding? Of course he did.
Prove it.
Um,
You trust the media on this, but you don't trust the media on other things.
I don't trust the media, period.
Well, you sure seem to be flying the narrative that he killed himself.
I don't believe that he actually killed himself or that he didn't kill himself. I believe he's still alive in the CIA black facility. They're beat. It's like the XKCD comic where somebody's like, they'll never get my password. It's too strong. And then they just show somebody in the CIA beating the guy until he gives them the password. And it's like, that's probably what would really happen. And
Well, you can think of it this way: they're not. If they need you alive, they're not going to kill you. All you have to do is just not speak during torture, or give them a lie.
you just put them in solitary until they break, and then they'll give you anything they want to get out.
Maybe they might like that.
Well, not everybody's a weirdo like you who likes that.
Wow.
Like, go to your room. You've been bad.
Anyways,
What else do we have in the news? Nothing worthy of talking about for us. I mean, the long and short of it here is that if you just watch the news, you're only getting a small portion of the story, I think. And if you do your own research, and by do your own research, I don't mean be a schmuck who watches 2 YouTube videos on the subject and then considers themselves an expert. I mean, like, actually read things and do real research as if you were doing a freaking paper for college. And, you know, if you're one of those people and you are able to read between the lines, then good on you, because most people are just going to believe whatever the fuck the narrative of the day is.
what about liberals rejoice over Donald Rumsfeld's death? Wish there was somewhere worse he could go.
Who is that?
Former Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld on Wednesday.
Why are they rejoicing over his death?
I don't know. They're saying the only thing tragic about it is that it didn't take place in a prison cell, a progressive journalist said. Bye, bitch, said a correspondent. Probably because, Iraq. An obituary of Donald Rumsfeld that doesn't specifically states that he shared responsibility for a misguided war that resulted in the death of 4,000 American GIs and 200,000 more Iraqi civilians is journalistic malfeasance, said MSNBC analyst David Corn.
The next thing I got to talk about is it's not in the show notes, but while looking at the regular news, this popped up for me. You know how in Linux you usually install things either with not you, Autumn, but Barry. Usually you're going to use a package manager, but if for whatever reason it's not in that package manager, you're going to pull down the installation file for it from whatever source you use. Well, people who are using Red Hat and CentOS, there's a major problem with RPM that's been uncovered that has been around for like 2 decades, but it's a nasty bug they just figured out. And yes, Autumn.
Kate Brown just opened up Portland because it seemed a safe bet in the face of climate change. Oh, no, that's not it. Kate Brown celebrates the end of most COVID-19 restrictions today.
Yeah, well, that'll last a week before they're like, according to new information from WHO, everybody needs to wear a mask even if they've been vaccinated. Like, how? Why? Why do I need to wear a mask? I've been vaccinated. I can't get it. And the mask. The point of the mask is to stop me from giving it to somebody else, not for them to stop them from giving it to me. And if I'm vaccinated, I'm very much not going to be giving anything to anybody. Anyway. So the RPM issue here is this. It's that if you it's a matter of unauthorized packages that are being included as needed requirements to install other packages. So you go install something, and then it will pull down a bunch of other related packages so that the installer will work. But what's happening is people misspell a package name, and then somebody registers that other package name with some malware, and then let's say you go to install ABC website builder 123. And it pulls down some RPM packages that you don't know about, and then before you know it, you got a backdoor on your server. It's the same shit's happening before with other. Anyway, yeah, it was in the news. We've got critical race theory. If I start talking about critical race theory on this podcast, I'm going to lose about 92% of my audience. Cheaper RTX 3080s are coming, but you shouldn't buy one yet. That's right. You should let me buy them, and then you buy them later when I already got one.
I actually have some news for you. Okay. You know that China has cracked down on ASIC mining. They've also cracked down on GPU mining. And what you're going to see is a glut of GPUs coming straight out of China.
Yeah, well, I think also a lot of those GPUs they've been using to do the mining, they're going to start pulling out of systems and trying to sell them. You know, since it's no longer profitable now.
There is a demand for home GPU mining clandestinely in China because they don't. The regular folks have been taught that capitalism is always corrupt, and so they want to get in on the bucks. So. I can tell you that it's going to start. They're already starting to show up on like weird stores and Newegg and stuff like that. Ship from China. They're trying to get the high prices for them, but you're going to see this stuff dropping down to just about MSRP for a lot of it.
So the State Department has decided that they are going to be adding a third gender option to passports.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So this option essentially states that starting immediately, an applicant for a U.S. passport no longer needs to put M or F as their gender, And they also, if they are putting MRF, and they no longer need to provide any medical certification whatsoever that their gender doesn't match any other documents they have. And they have the option to select a gender option that isn't male or female. The further steps towards ensuring the fair treatment of LGBTQIA+. Oh, they took the A out. Dude, they took the A out.
It's just always changing. They have different variations of it.
Regardless of their gender or sex, will fulfill a Biden campaign promise. It will take some time, of course, to create a third gender option on passports, and obviously, I would think that Saudi Arabia is not going to accept any passport that has any one of these.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Is it?
Yes, the process of adding a gender marker for non-binary, intersex, and non-conforming people to these documents is technologically complex. Do what Oregon does. Put a fucking X there. M for male, F for female, and X for non-binary.
That works. So
boom, done. One letter.
Yeah, that works. Because just say individual.
And there's the I. So ZZYYM is intersex and non-binary, and the application for a U.S. passport requires the applicant will either select male or female, while some people who are intersex identify as male or female, and ZZYYM does not.
ZM?
That sounds like a comic book villain.
My name is Zim.
Yeah.
Has a driver's license in Colorado where they live, with X listed as their gender. But getting a passport with their gender is neither male or female has been impossible. The lawsuit, Lambda Legal, argues the State Department is violating ZZYYM's constitutional rights by denying them a passport that accurately reflects their gender.
Bullshit. There's no constitutional right on gender markers and sex markers. Plus, it says M and F for male and female, which means it's denoting sex. If you're confused on what you should do, just think really hard back to what the doctor probably said when they pulled you out of your mother's womb.
Well, I mean, doesn't your identification list you as a female, Autumn?
Yeah, that's just because the option's there already. This is before the option's available. I'm fine putting an M. I have an M on medical records.
I know. So, but my question here is with Zim, or however we're going to say this, is this particular person says they are intersex. So if they are intersex, does that mean that on medical documentation it should state their birth genitalia, or does that not? I mean, if say they have testicular cancer,
I can understand an I guess, for intersex. So maybe 4 options, or just make the third option an I for intersex. But this person seems like they're non-binary too, which is not the same thing as intersex.
Actually, in the article it says they say that they are intersex or non-binary. So I think they particularly
and non-binary. I think.
Oh, how can you be both? I thought they're two slightly different things.
You can be both, and you can be one, or you can not be the other one, or you can be vice versa.
I'm going to piss you off right now. I identify as an attack helicopter.
Okay. What are your pronouns?
Attack and helicopter.
Okay, attack. So intersex is having basically an abnormality where you basically have both genitals. Non-binary is like I don't identify as a man or a woman. It's usually something that's not binary to the existing concept, which is either being a man or a woman.
What if you identify as a
salami
sandwich?
It actually makes sense why an intersex actually would be non-binary.
I identify as zero cool.
Okay.
From
That's
now
cool, man.
Look at me as zero cool.
That's just like your opinion, bro.
All right, dude. You will refer to me as zero cool, and I'm going to call you Acid Burn from now on. That's your new name.
Whoa! Why should I respect your pronouns and your new name, but you won't respect mine?
And what's your new name?
I don't have a new name.
Yes, you do. It's Acid Burn.
No.
Okay, Acid. All right.
So you're a human fudgesicle. Okay, so what?
Yep, pretty much.
Well, she's got the fan, and I'm over here without the fan. She's nice and cold, and I'm here in the sweltering heat with the sun in my hand.
So you need to go to Home Depot and get a nice and commercial electric industrial fan with about 900 CFM, and you'll be cool.
That fan over there in the corner is pretty badass. Well, that air conditioner rather. All right. Kim Jong-un berates North Korea's top official over great crisis in COVID response. Experts question North Korea's claims to not have reported any COVID-19 cases. Ooh, what's going on with you? Give us a copyright strike, why don't you?
Why is that?
I don't see any copyrightable material in there.
I was trying to play it, but for some reason it did not play. I was trying to share my screen, and there we go. All right, that's better. This was auto playing. You can't probably hear it though. The TLDR here.
Take me off focus. Or just there you go. Now it's share screen.
My people like looking at your pretty face. So Kim is said to have replaced several Politburo members of the and state officials at the meeting, and has not officially recorded any COVID-19 cases, although it claims to be virus-free. There were people claiming that in North Korea, if you were suspected of having the virus, people would just show up in biohazard suits and take you away, and you were never seen again. So that's one way to deal with the situation.
Just kill them now.
But see that the thing is if you call the people that get the disease and become immune, you're not going to get that herd immunity.
Well, you will if you have some spies go to some neighboring countries and steal some vaccine.
You have to also consider their living conditions for the average person in North Korea, so they probably would easily die from the COVID. Because these people live in shit conditions. Everything that you see, usually, even from leaked coverage, is generally set up for the journalists and documentary people.
Yeah.
So the reason why they probably weren't even killed, they probably didn't have to, or they killed them because it was just like, you're gonna die. We're just gonna give you a peaceful sending off. Who knows? We don't have enough information.
Yeah. Well, the fact that they disappeared, never to be seen again, and their families would inquire, they'd be told, if you keep inquiring, you're going to disappear. It's like freaking Twilight Zone.
A little bit extra paranoid.
Yeah.
Kim Jong-un probably can't even survive it. I bet. Because he probably has the best doctors in North Korea, but that's not saying a lot.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Bill Cosby. All right. So, whoa, that was not supposed to autoplay. Let's see. Why is I'm sharing my screen, but nobody's seeing it. Let's try to reshare it. There we go.
I can't share my screen.
Oh, there you go. Now it's for you in the screen.
Overturned his 2018 sex assault conviction, so he is set to walk free after serving more than 2 years.
I know you guys can't hear this, but the thing is, Bill Cosby has served about 2 years on his sentence, and now he's being set free. Now, there's at least 3 accusers who are absolutely disgusted and shocked by this news. You may be disgusted and shocked, but you're probably not very surprised. If you're rich and powerful and you get caught doing horrible, horrible things, you're likely not going to spend very long in jail. Where is Adrian? Adrian is taking a nap. Adrian is old. and he needs sleepies. So Cosby was released after Pennsylvania's highest court overturned his sexual assault conviction, saying his due process was violated in the first case because it took place in the Me Too era. A reaction from accusers and their attorneys to the announcement is a stark contrast to the elation of the many felt in 2018 when he was found guilty on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault for drugging and sexually assaulting Andrea Constand in his home in Philadelphia in 2004. Here's what the women had to say. Cosby drugged and assaulted her in her home in 2004. His conviction is disappearing, and it's discouraging other survivors of sexual assault of coming forward. Today's major decision regarding Bill Cosby is not only disappointing, but a concern that it may discourage those who would otherwise seek justice for sexual assault cases from doing so. Victoria Valentio was said he raped her in the 60s, and she's outraged. Her stomach's in knots, and so what does this say about a woman's worth, a woman's value? What is it? What do our lives mean? Nothing. At the lives that he's damaged, not to mention our children and how we respond to our children in personal relationships. So Janice Baker Kinney says that he gave her pills and raped her in the 80s. I'm stunned and shocked, and my stomach's in a knot. Lisa Bloom, who was one of the attorneys for an accuser, said the jury heard all the evidence, considered everything, and convicted him. And now the day has come where that's just a slap in the face for all these victims. I'm glad he at least served some time, but it was a tiny, tiny measure of justice, and he should have received more. Gloria Allred, another attorney, said this decision to overturn the conviction must be devastating for his accusers. Her heart goes out to those who bravely testified in both cases. Yeah. The TLDR here is if you are rich and you do something stupid, not just stupid, but like really, really bad and stupid, you're probably not going to do more than 2 years before your attorneys find some legal loophole to get you off and out.
Well, I can tell you that Bill Cosby probably doesn't have that many more years on this planet Earth. And he's going to be sued into poverty. And so he's going to wind up in a nursing home anyway. So, that's how it goes.
Oh, look, it's Jeff Smith. Hey, what's up, Mang? It's me, N3F. Hi there, N3F. These freaking cockroaches killed all my accounts except Gab. I have a similar account. I got all these ants in my house, and they keep killing all my accounts. It's ant problems, man.
So why are they killing your accounts?
They're not really. I'm just bullshitting right now.
So they say like some justice was served, but not enough. Like just a sliver of it. Like what justice are you going to get with him locked away from society? Nothing. It's all just to appease their feelings. And I don't think the law should be based on that.
Yeah, they should send them to something truly horrible, like working with Sarah Silverman.
At least make him work himself to death.
I mean,
or let him go free, because like just sitting in a cell, like what's he supposed to do? Serve his whole life? Then his life is pretty much dead.
Well, I mean, they got the case overturned, so it's like he was never convicted in the first place.
Yeah.
So he served 2 years in jail. He's probably going to have some freaking civil suit now for being, having to serve jail, and when he shouldn't have, and he might even get money out of it. You never know.
They'll get money. I mean, he's not going to leave anything to heirs, okay, except for legal bills.
Yeah. Next, we got some Britney Spears drama.
Well, there you go. See, they can't free Britney, but they did free Bill Cosby.
Leave Britney alone.
Well, she is a woman.
So what happened with Britney Spears is she's had some mental health issues. And because of that, she's been placed in a conservatorship. Now, in a conservatorship, That's where the court appoints somebody else to be in charge of your life. Essentially, they manage your finances, they manage your day-to-day routine. This person's essentially in charge of you because you've been deemed unable to take care of yourself. It's usually done with people with severe persistent mental illness who have very loving and caring family willing to take the time and do this for somebody, because it's no joking matter. It's like it's a big deal. So when her father became her conservator and was taking care of her, it was mandated that she had to go to therapy, I think once a week at a specific place. She was essentially placed in what New York calls AOT and other states call court mandated treatment. And she essentially had a whole plan of things she had to do. Now, if she was on tour, then she didn't have to go to therapy once a week, but she had to do it over a video chat. But when she's not on tour, they still mandated that she went in person. That was one of the things that she's not so happy about, because whenever she'd go to therapy, the paparazzi would follow her there and make her life a living hell. So she's like, well, and I'm forced to be on tour. I can do video therapy. Why can't I do it when I'm at home? Why do I have to go in person? Why is it mandated in this contract? Jeff Smith would like it to be known that not N3F, it's as in nefarious. That's great, Jeff. Hi, nefarious. So the Jamie Smith thing, her sister was essentially taking over the conservatorship after the father, and she just was not doing a very good job. I mean, if you were put in charge of somebody without really wanting to be put in charge of them, would you put a lot of effort into it?
Yes, depending on the situation.
So
how old is she? Like 38 now or something like that?
Probably somewhere around there.
Okay, so she was immature, okay, and she had issues in her 20s, okay, and she got a little crazy and showed her, vajayjay in public and did all sorts of crazy stuff and did drugs and shaved her head and said, devil, and all this crazy stuff, okay? But don't you think she's actually grown up a little bit and gotten over it?
Well, the thing is, she gave birth to a child, right?
Right.
She doesn't have a significant other, and she didn't know who the father was. So, in terms of the conservatorship, one of the things they did was they told her she has to have an IUD in at all times. She doesn't want an IUD, and she wants to go get pregnant again, which is her prerogative as a woman, So they're telling her she can't, and she's been making a big deal about this in the media, and I don't blame her. I mean, I wouldn't want to be told I can't do something because of conditions of my mental illness, because as somebody who has dealt with mental illness, I can tell you do sometimes get better. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. And when you're better, you can do everything somebody else can do. So there's no reason.
But you can also appear and speak maturely or intelligently in certain situations, but that doesn't mean you're generally able to cope with daily living.
I think she's kind of grown out of her craziness. Yeah.
Or she's just well medicated.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people who have to take medicine to be stable will take it and then feel good for a while, and then be like, I don't need medicine anymore because I'm obviously so stable. So they stop taking the medicine, and then they start that cycle where they decline, and then bad things happen, and they get put back on the medicine. And that's why a lot of places they'll court mandate somebody, you have to take your meds. If you don't take your meds, you're going to the hospital. The very second you stop taking them, and you have to check in once a week or whatever that you are, and get blood tests. And so I understand why they do that, but I'm not necessarily a big fan of the practice. And she's been court mandated to not only take her psychological medication, but they also put into the mandate that she has to be on a contraceptive, meaning she's not allowed to have more kids, which is a little fucked up because she already has one kid.
Is she a good parent? Is she able to be a parent right now?
I don't know the article doesn't discuss her parenting ability. What it does discuss is her sister has been put in charge of her day-to-day affairs. Yet Brittany herself manages a whole bunch of people herself. She essentially signs the paychecks of a lot of people. So wouldn't it be weird if somebody is thought to be in a good enough state of mind where they can have a whole bunch of employees and like pay those employees and essentially run a very successful business, but then they themselves have to be taken care of in a conservatorship? And there is certainly a bit of a contrast there between your average person who might be in a conservatorship and somebody who's rich and famous and able to also do the day-to-day things that allow them to remain that way and have employees and all that stuff. And then they themselves
She's running a bunch of people. Like, she personally is in charge and running people, telling them what to do and making sure everything's going the way it's supposed to. She doesn't have anyone assisting her with her.
I'm sure she's probably got assistants, but she probably pays those assistants, which would mean that she, at the very least, is capable of paying her assistant.
So she's
That's
probably
all I've heard.
managing her business as a entertainer, okay? Because she has skills there, okay? And,
Right.
And so she just has a little bit of a wacko on interacting with the public, and so I mean, but that probably is she's probably grown up, okay? She probably just wants to be normal and live her life and not have people dog her all the time.
I think I understand the contraceptive part. If she's not capable of being a parent and she's produced a child and was shown that she was incapable, until she can prove that she is capable to raise a child, why should she be able to bring other life into this world only for them to suffer at the hands of her incapabilities?
Well, she's gonna have help.
I mean, there are lots of bad parents out there. There's nobody telling those bad parents they can't.
They're not in the spotlight,
reproduce.
so of course aren't as aware, and people aren't probably going to court and doing it. She has a big name, so she's more likely to be mandated, I would say.
Look, let her have some children. If she's a bad parent, then she'll get help raising the child.
I mean, they're letting Courtney Love raise a child. I mean, she's not a very good parent. It's been in the media a bunch of times. Her doing stupid shit, and her child got taken away from her 6 or 7 times, always gets given back to her. I mean, there's a lot of famous people who are horrible parents. We had Michael Jackson dangling his child outside of a window. Nobody went to go take it away from him. And it probably wasn't biologically even his. He just paid people to have it for him. I don't know what argument I'm making here, but the thing is, I think they should take away the conservatorship. Let her fuck up her life if she wants to. She's made the money. Let her fuck. If she wants to go downhill and destroy her life, let her.
I don't think she wants to do that. I think she wants to live a normal life.
Then let her try that too.
Why not? And if if people actually do give a crap about her, say, hey, don't fuck this up. To be rude, sorry about the foul language, but hey, do what's right. Okay, you're growing up. It's time to grow up. Do it right.
Yeah.
I think she can do it.
What do you guys think about the transgender weightlifter who is going to be competing in the Olympics this year on the women's team?
Well, I think it's grossly unfair. There was a woman weightlifter who was disqualified because she had too much testosterone in her system for some kind of medical treatment or something. It's false positive, but they're allowing someone who has had testosterone for most of their life compete in the Olympics.
I'd say about half their life.
So I
don't see an issue with it because she's not necessarily going to be dominating the competition.
The article here says Laurel Hubbard, she hefted 628 pounds in 2 lifts on her way to qualifying for the women's super heavyweight division for the Tokyo Olympics. And while that is heavy, it's nowhere near the weight they've carried to become the first transgender athlete to compete at the Olympic Games. They were among one of 5 weightlifters confirmed Monday in New Zealand's team for Tokyo. At 43, she's also going to be the oldest weightlifter at the Games, and is going to be ranked 4th in the competition on August 2nd for women 87 kilograms or 192 pounds and over. They won a silver medal in 2017 and gold in 2019, and competed in 2018 Commonwealth Games and sustained a serious injury that set back their career there. They broke their arm. It's healed. They're better. The thing is, she's faced anger, scorn, and ridicule, and has been directly criticized by a lot of opponents. She transitioned 8 years ago at the age of 35 and has met all the requirements for trans athletes and fair competition according to the International Olympic Committee's regulations. The IOC specifies these conditions under which somebody who's transitioning from male to female is eligible to compete in a female category. Among them is that they've officially declared their gender identity as female. This declaration cannot be changed, and for sporting purposes, for at least a minimum of 4 years, which means you can call yourself female for this, and then 4 years later go back to being a male, and then compete in the male Olympics. But you can't compete 1 year as a female, and then the next year in the male. You got to wait at least 4 years. It's an odd thing to put in there, I'd think.
Yeah.
Has that been a problem where somebody would compete as a male, then as a female, then back as a male again?
Probably because of backlash that they created that provision.
The athlete must also demonstrate their total testosterone is below a specific measurement for at least 12 months prior to competition. And the overriding sporting objective is and remains the guarantee of fair competition. Well, that's a question. Fair competition. Even if you're on like hormones, and I'm not an expert here, so I might ask the transgender person in the audience. If I'm on hormones, does that all of a sudden mean that I no longer have any of those male characteristics? Like, am I still a little bit stronger than somebody who might have been born female? Do I get to retain any of that? From my understanding, you only lose about 5%.
Testosterone gives you these abilities to have like these bursts of power. It's a performance hormone is what it is. There's reasons for that. So if you were to transition now and go on estrogen, and you would be like for like 6 months or so, or not 6 months, like maybe a month or two on testosterone blockers, then you go on estrogen, and over time you start losing, you gain more fat redistributed in different areas. You do lose muscle mass. It's just a slow progression.
How much muscle mass do you lose? Is it about 5%?
It just depends.
So if a male is by default a little bit stronger than your average female, wouldn't they, even if they lost maybe 5% of their total?
This person transitioned and stopped weightlifting after their competition when they were 20, which then they transitioned, and they hadn't been weightlifting then, so they recently started weightlifting.
I would say just going through puberty as a male gives you a certain advantage, even if you were to later transition to a female. And maybe if you never went through puberty, you might be on equal footing.
How so? Let's say you and I, like, it just kind of depends. Do they, like, when do they work out? That's usually when you optimize the use of testosterone is by working your body out and your muscle, because they grow faster. You can have bigger bone density or thicker bone density, a different maybe shaped skull, and you might be taller, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be lifting heavier than the person next to you.
Oh, interesting. Well, I think maybe they should have their own space where they can compete.
Well, I do. I think that there are women who do produce more testosterone than normal. Okay, that's the truth, because I've actually seen women weightlifters that were just beefy. Okay, and they were definitely female. No doubt about it. Okay?
Or they're taking testosterone. A lot of them do that too.
Well, I didn't think that, but you know, there's
like, it'd be hard to be like a female bodybuilder for example, and not be taking testosterone.
I mean, if you're a female bodybuilder and you're not on testosterone, obviously you probably wouldn't be, right? Does that still put you on like equal footing with somebody who has testosterone naturally but is now suppressing it with blockers?
Yes, because the reason why they have these limitations, like in order to join, you have to have testosterone at this level, and you must be on hormones for this long. You must have estrogen at this level, is because of how testosterone affects those bursts of power when you, like, if you're sprinting, if you're lifting weights. Like, if you were to take Lauren Hubbard, is that her name?
Yep.
Laurel Hubbard. If you were to take her and made like an exact atom by atom or atom for atom copy of her, but one that had just started reproducing natural testosterone in the body, the one that's producing testosterone is going to outperform the one that's on testosterone blockers.
Right. So in that case, wouldn't you
But they're
consider it
missing
an
other
unfair
positions.
advantage that they've got more testosterone than the rest of the people competing?
She doesn't, though.
Yes, she does. The articles,
No, she meets the qualifications of having her estrogen at a certain level.
the qualifications are different for transgender people than they are for females.
I know. Go back to the article. I'll show you.
Okay.
Or down. Go down to the stipulations. Right there. The athlete must demonstrate their total testosterone level is below a specific measurement, probably equal to or lower than a biological woman. Estrogen probably has to be around the same range.
What
Probably
is the
different
measurement?
depending on the. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I also didn't crazy stipulations. Probably a little bit more estrogen in their system, considering their specific height and weight. I mean, there's another really beefy-looking girl, but she's also very short.
What about that skater who came out as trans?
What are you talking about? Tim Pool, non-binary. There they are, first picture. That's them. Leah Baker.
They are a 28-year-old skateboarder, and they're going to be the first non-binary skater in the new Tony Hawk video game. The third LGBTQ skater. They keep changing this. Like, well, how many things are going to be in this? It's LGBTIA plus NN 472 1981.
Different styles, so different writing styles.
The remastered game is going to be yada yada yada. We're proud to remaster it. They created the New York City Skate Project to create safe spaces for LGBT. They remove the Q and the IA there. Communities to skate together, and the host, yada yada yada. They're pushing for inclusion. That's all good for them. I thought there was some controversy with them, but I guess that was just Tim Pool using them as an example.
That's Tim Pool. He's a fucking attention whore.
It's clickbait.
Yeah.
All right, so I throw out there are women that actually do produce testosterone at higher levels than other women.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so what's the big deal? All right, it's natural things. Okay, so you can't have one factor. I mean, when you're talking about artificial stuff versus somebody naturally producing testosterone. I mean, is that right?
I don't know. Autumn, is that right?
Yeah, I don't see a difference between them really that much. That warrants like how it's going to perform, make them perform in the Olympics or skateboarding. I guess I don't know for skateboarding being non-binary, female to non-binary versus females even get them.
I just gotta say, naming a tropical storm Elsa is probably gonna be a bad idea. Let it snow.
So we got a hurricane coming in. Dang.
If only it was coming like from an abnormal hurricane coming from like Canada or like Russia.
Russia.
Yeah, because then it would be a hurricane with ice and snow.
I know, but I mean, naming a hurricane Elsa.
Then you can call it Elsa because then it'll be.
Then it's going to be snowy. Yeah, that'd be a good. You imagine Elsa all of a sudden the weather just drops like 20 degrees everywhere because of this somehow. I don't understand weather at all, but like, yeah.
So I got to worry about stupid storms coming in. I'm on the coast, you know that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So
the NSA is denying claims that Tucker Carlson is saying they're out to get him.
Yeah, apparently he's very paranoid.
He's still claiming the NSA spied on him in his email and text communications. If the NSA is spying on you, trust me, you don't know the NSA is spying on you. They don't leave tracks. You just don't know it happened, you know?
it's kind of like the Russians, you know. The Russians get into our systems and you never know they're there, and then they get bribed by the Chinese, and after they get all the information they want, they sell it to the Chinese, and the Chinese come in and kick over trash cans and make themselves known, and then of course the Russians get blamed.
Yeah. The Kamala Harris's office is right with dissent, apparently. That's interesting. There is dysfunction inside the vice president's office, aides and administrators say, and it's emanating from the top. When Vice President Kamala Harris finally made the decision to visit the Mexico border last week, which ironically she made like a day after Trump said he was doing the same thing, people inside her office were blindsided by the news. For days, aides and outside allies had been calling and texting each other about political fallout of the potential trip. And when it became known she was going to El Paso, it left a lot of people scrambling, especially officials who were responsible for making the travel arrangements, as well as others who were responsible for crafting the messages across the administration. Morale is apparently very low among her employees, and there are very porous lines of communication that have diminished trust among aides and former officials. Imagine when she's president in a month or two after Biden falls down some stairs or something.
Not surprised. I mean, she was a shit person in California. And
all right, so let me translate that for you. Okay, she can do whatever she wants, and that's a nothing burger. And if her people that are working for her are squawking and crying about it, that's stupid. Okay. And she can just say, "Oh, I'm going to go to the border and do whatever." You know, I mean, that she's the vice president, she's a decision maker. Okay, so it sounds like there's a bunch of drama that is nothing.
Yeah.
Okay? And Politico is just bringing it up so they can write empty garbage, you know, for public consumption.
Very, very likely.
See, I'm in touch with the stuff. I mean, if Biden goes down the border, it's a nothing burger, okay?
I can only imagine Biden taking a trip down to Mexico, and God forbid something were to happen to him on that trip, and then Kamala became president and now had multiple excuses to deal with things the way that she wants to, because like she's not a fan of immigration the way people seem to think she would be. Just because she ran on the Democrat ticket doesn't mean she's not a Republican on immigration issues.
She's a Republican on a lot of issues. She's just using the Democrat path.
I mean, Trump was a Democrat and he ran on the Republican ticket. It's like, okay, and now they're like, all right, we'll just run on any ticket we want as long as we think we can win.
Trump was a Democrat. and I can understand that. But, I mean, in New York City, I mean, he was in business, and he had to basically, grease the palms that would get him, you know, where he needed to go, and get him out of the way so he can make some money. I mean,
I'm just putting this article up because it looks funny. Trump says Biden would not pass cognitive tests that he aced. Former President Donald Trump on Wednesday claimed during a border security event in Texas that President Biden would flunk a cognitive test. Trump said that he aced his own test, administered by the then White House physician, Dr. Ron Jackson, who is now, I was thinking Ron Jeremy, or Ronnie Jackson, who is now a Texas Republican congressman. Jackson did a test. Did I ace it? I aced it. And I'd like to see it Biden ace it. He won't ace it. I got to do that in a Trumpian manner.
What you don't want to hear about is Biden deucing.
I got a guy who did a test.
Do it.
Did I ace it? I aced it.
I did a test. Did I ace the test? I aced the test. I'd like to see Biden ace the test.
Well, we don't want to see that toilet action from that deuce.
I kind of do.
You're not even doing the hand gestures. You gotta go like.
I can't do a good Trump. That's outside my range there. Why don't you do it, Autumn?
Trump is kind of spastic about the hand gestures and stuff. I mean, he's a little over the top.
Look at that fucking mug. All right.
I miss Trump.
I mean,
he was always good for some fun media coverage.
I like Trump for his results. I didn't like his bellicosity. I mean, I thought he was a little bit over the top, but that was, from what I read from people who were close to him for years and years before he ever decided to run president, because that's how he is, and he likes to.
Come on, man.
He was a big, he was somebody who would just, persuade you to make the deal. Okay, I mean, he was a force, and just he would reset your brain.
Gonna make him a deal he can't refuse.
Yeah, well, he would just be over the top, and that would just reset people's thinking.
He also yells too.
Yeah,
I know wonderful things.
If you didn't make a deal with Trump that he wanted you to make, the next day you'd wake up and there'd be a bloody horse head in your bed.
Now I've taken a test. No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test?
Come on, man.
That's like saying, before you go on this program, did you take the test you're taking? Okay. Are you a junkie?
What? If he can't figure out the difference between an elephant and a lion, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Did you watch that? I mean, come on. I know you're trying to goad me, but I mean, I'm so forward-looking.
Apparently not. You're replying about the stupid test. You could have just ignored it.
Yeah.
You're a lying dog face. Biden said. You're a lying dog face.
Also, Biden probably doesn't even know what the conversation's about at this point.
Well, that's
man.
That's just the talking points right there. Lying dog face is always the talking points.
I think it's being puppeted remotely with some freaking. He's got the first prototype Neuralink, and he's just being puppeted by Elon Musk. I know that's bullshit. I'm just fucking around. So, can you imagine if the people who get the first Neuralink just become like puppets for Elon Musk? That'd be creepy. That'd be a good dark Mirror episode.
I don't equate Elon Musk with Neuralinks because Elon Musk was paranoid about him.
Elon Musk is the driving force behind the technology.
Let me guess. Abraham Lincoln was the last president because he was like a professional wrestler and a president.
Oh, we want to look at the president's link. So
Did
historians
he used to talk some major shit in the ring too.
Historians just ranked the presidents, and Trump wasn't last. Well, what do you know? I would like to read this article, but for some reason, the Washington Post is not letting me because you click the link and then you go to scroll down and nothing happens. Well, Rumsfeld dies. Okay, we already knew that. Oh, now the article loaded. I bet it is some bullshit with that up there. I wonder if I could just zap it. Let's zap it. Zap all the elements. Let's zap this. Oop, I accidentally zapped the whole article.
Oh my god.
Whoopsie. That wasn't it. That wasn't it at all. Zap that too. You know what? This article.
You know, Trump is the second. I think he's the second president to be a professional wrestler.
This is Idiocracy, where the president was a wrestler. I don't think Idiocracy was meant to be a template for society.
That's a horror movie.
Have you not seen Idiocracy? It's by Mike Judge, the same guy who made Beavis and Butthead, and yeah.
I love
Bobby. Maybe I can just pull up the Speaks fan. All right, let's look at who's on the list. Select the president and see their ranking. Total scores and rankings overall. That's what looks interesting. Abraham Lincoln is considered the best president. Let's see who the worst president is. James Buchanan. Then Andrew Johnson. Then Franklin Pierce. And then Donald Trump.
Go up. Where's Thomas Jefferson? Oh, he's 7th.
Yeah.
Why?
Kennedy's pretty high up there.
Why? Roosevelt fucking put people in internment camps just for.
Yeah, but he also started Social Security.
So
people like Social
Hitler
Security.
Fixed the economy.
Puts money in
he
their
also
pockets.
killed Jews. So which is it? Are we just gonna pick and choose who we call bad and who's good?
FDR took people's gold, and that you know, of course, the NFA. I mean,
what about Washington? What did he do that earned him the number 2 spot, other than being?
He abandoned Thomas Paine in France, Paris.
That sounds like a real pain.
Yeah. Well, one major thing is he decided not to be king.
Well, I just can't wait to be king. Do, 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 do.
I mean, like I said, if you ever make me king, there will be beheadings.
Have you guys seen this site I came across the other day? I think it was called, maybe victory.win. Victory.win. Nope, that wasn't it. It used to be the Donald.win. And now it's America.win.
That's Louis Rossman. Okay. I like it.
This was not the site I was looking for, but I'm glad I came across it because I like Louis Rossman. And the right to repair. The right to repair is a big deal. I mean, so I like to fix my own shit if I can try to, at least. Sometimes I can do it. So most of the time I can't.
Don't play it. It's an ad. It's just, hey, I fix my shit. Give me money, and I'll give you a book and a CD, and I'll tell you how to do it.
Well,
that's all it is.
Yeah. Well, no, right to repair is so a farmer can repair his own tractor, or you can actually take your iPhone that you accidentally dropped in the toilet to a repair shop. Well, they can get your pictures off because you didn't back it up.
So they made their own little Reddit clone for the subreddit that got banned called the Donald, and all they do is post very, very somewhat controversial news. Most of it definitely can't be backed. The stuff that can be backed tends to be a little odd. Let's find a good example. Fox cuts off President Trump speaking at the southern border after he talks about fixing the fake election and the country turning into a banana republic to talk some bullshit talking points. Fox, no one cares what you have to say. Let Trump speak. Hey, Bill Cosby will release from prison today. Remember this site back in the day? Remember Drew Curtis's Fark? Used to be where we'd go before. Yeah, they take funny actual news headlines and then they take news headlines and make them funny. Essentially, DC fire seeks smoking hot arsonist. 12-year-old from New Jersey becomes youngest grandmaster in chess history. Still can't pump his own gas.
Go up. Is this interactive?
Yeah. You want me to click something?
Shit. No, like as in, do they help you create headlines too?
No, you gotta make your own headline, and then it gets voted on. It's like Reddit, but way before
I
Reddit.
could have used that in the newsroom.
Yeah, they take the stuff in the news and they make funny headlines that they're not
Mine
that.
are death serious. They're like, man dies, family cries, or something.
Like not news. Workers quit because pay is too low. News. Firefighters quit because pay is too low. The FARC headline would be firefighters quit because they can make more at Amazon packing packed boxes. You know, it's a decent site. I used to go on this all the time when I was much younger. So we used to have Dig, if you remember. Dig was Reddit before Reddit, and now after a site redesign is complete and utter clickbait garbage. It used to be a good site, though. It used to be very much in the same format as like Reddit. Now it's just another BuzzFeed clone.
So, well, you can always go to Babylon Bee and get fake. Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Babylon Bee is kind of like the Onion. The Onion tends to be a bit more left-leaning, and the Babylon Bee more right-leaning. But there's still fake news. They're intentional fake news, where like they'll take a story and write a satire thing about it.
It's all satire.
Yeah. The thing is, it's become so messed up with news nowadays, where you can share something from the Babylon Bee to Facebook, and then Facebook will take it down and say that it's misleading. It's like it's supposed to be. It's satire news. Of course, it's going to fucking not be the real news. You're like, oh, they'll strike it as being, inaccurate. It was not meant to be accurate. It's you can't. It's like trying to censor a comedian on like who puts up a YouTube video and then giving them a strike for speaking their mind during a comedy show. And it's like either we're going to have some freedom of speech where people can speak their mind about topics, or we're going to censor. They can't be a little bit of both. Either you're going to censor people or you're not going to censor people. But if you're going to selectively censor people based on your political opinion, that's a little fucked. Anywho.
Well, fake nudes is fake nudes. I call it fake nudes, not fake news. It's not really news. It's just garbage.
Speaking of fake nudes, remember back in the day we had alt.binaries, .pictures, .erotica, .celebrities. Usenet.
Oh, Usenet is still around. Okay, yeah.
It seems to still be around. People still use it.
I remember having a program called Picture Sucker, and you would run that thing on, and of course this is dial-up, and it would just suck all the pictures out of the alt binaries or alt nudes. Whatever.
Yeah, what a lot of people who run Plex servers do is they'll run Couch Potato and configure it to different news groups, and then it'll pull down all of their TV shows as they're released from news groups directly, and then like reassemble it all, and then pop in the right folder and add the metadata, and then it's just added to the Plex server.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, Autumn's saying phone to me. ET phone home. ET. Oh, Autumn's gone. Where'd Autumn go?
She's not on the live. She dropped.
Oh, hold on.
It's almost 3 hours now.
Yeah, let's get going. Guys, it has been a pleasure. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in to our little cast. Hopefully Adrian will be with us next week. We all love and miss him very much and wish people would stop fucking with him online and upsetting him. Because he's a really good dude and he doesn't deserve this bullshit. And honestly, all those of you who are out there and decide you'd like to shit on Adrian and all of his accomplishments and all of his contributions to the community just because he might not be as politically correct as you would like, you guys can just all go fuck yourselves. Thanks for that, Autumn. Now everybody can see the cast. Fucking Zoom meeting for AFL in our cast.
Well, you just tell him to piss off. Adrian, he puts himself out there and he does the work, okay? And that's the thing. He
fucking does the work. It's like he's put in the groundwork. He started the idea of, hey, let's record these cons so that this knowledge doesn't get lost forever in the void. And all these people on Twitter do is bitch about him and how they don't like him and how they think he's a misogynist and they think he's a this and he's a that. The thing is, Adrian's a product of his environment, and he acts the way he acts because he's just being himself. He's not trying to put on false airs to make you like him. And you don't have to be like, oh, I agree with everything Adrian says to agree that the accomplishment and the things that he's built is unparalleled in our industry. You don't, it's never like, he built the infrastructure that is now used to record multiple conferences. He put it in place where it's an expectation that a conference will record what's going on. And I think a lot of the conferences that managed to go digital wouldn't have even had the inclination to do so without the groundwork that was laid out by Adrian and his idea of recording conferences in the first place. So a lot of knowledge would have been lost without Adrian. And you don't have to like him, his politics, or anything about him to understand that he's probably contributed a lot more to InfoSec than you ever will. And you don't have to like it either. A lot of people, their accomplishment
He's
is
harmless, okay? He doesn't really, there's nothing that he says online or anything else that should really bother anybody, okay?
agreed.
I mean, he's gonna throw some junk back, or they throw it at him, but
the thing is, they will goad him, and then when he responds, they will retweet whatever they goaded, what he comes out with, and then delete what they said that brought up to it, and make it look like he's attacking them. Yeah, it's like Adrian attacked me, or they'll edit things.
That's garbage. I mean, just let leave the man alone. Go about your stupid business. If you don't like it, and just let him do his thing so he can. I mean, he's a good man and he does his job. And that's
agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, what they're doing is they are under the false assumption that he's getting paid to do this work, which he's not, or that he's making some great amount of ad revenue when most of his videos have been demonetized forever, right? They're under the assumption he's getting paid to go to conferences and record things when he's not. He does it as a labor of love. And he also pays for the equipment to do it. And he lugs that shit there. And then he takes his own time and edits the videos when they're not perfect and fixes AV sync issues and all sorts of shit. And he takes the time to upload them and make them available to us. And the thing is, they just don't care. They don't care about what you've done. They care about how they can tear you down. They don't want to build something. They want to destroy something. Anyway, I digress. Stop fucking with Adrian. Leave Adrian alone. Leave him alone.
All right.
Anyway, I love you, Barry. I'll talk to you later.
Take care.